Welcome back, fearless voyagers of the unknown, to my channel, where the waves whisper secrets. The sand hides forgotten bones, and islands that seem serene by day reveal dark, restless spirits by night. Tonight, we set sail across Florida as haunted islands, from the Gulf Coast to the Atlantic shores, where tragedies, shipwrecks, and dark legends bind the dead to the land. Some islands are abandoned, their buildings crumbling under the sun, yet still echo with the footsteps of those who perished long ago. Others are privately inhabited, but locals whisper of spectral visitors, strange lights over the water, and shadows moving where no one should be. So, take a deep breath of the salty sea air, watch the horizon carefully, and join me as we explore the 25 most haunted islands in Florida surrounded by restless spirits. Because on these islands, the dead never truly leave you, and sometimes they reach out. Far out in the Gulf of Mexico, 70 miles west of Key West, lies a lonely cluster of islands known as the Dry Tortugas. Once a vital outpost for ships navigating the treacherous waters of the Florida Straits, the islands are now a haunting reminder of human ambition, suffering, and the ghosts that refuse to fade away. Rising from the turquoise sea stands Fort Jefferson, a colossal 19th century fortress built from more than 16 million bricks, a structure so large and imposing that it seems almost impossible it was ever abandoned. But it was, and what remains today is a place where history breathes uneasily, and where the living share the space with the dead. Visitors who arrive by boat or seaplane often describe an eerie stillness that settles over them the moment they step ashore. The air feels heavier, the silence broken only by the cry of seabirds and the slow crash of waves against the ancient walls. Fort Jefferson looms like a ghost itself, its hollow corridors stretching endlessly, echoing with whispers from another time. Rangers who patrol the fort after dark say it is a place that never truly sleeps. The temperature drops suddenly, and invisible fingers seem to brush across the skin, as if unseen watchers are drawing near. Many have claimed to encounter ghostly figures dressed in the faded blue of Union soldiers, wandering through the courtyard or standing guard upon the ramparts. They vanish when approached, leaving only the faint smell of gunpowder behind. Others have reported hearing the rhythmic clack of boots marching across stone floors, long after the last visitor is gone. Some swear they hear cannon fire echoing over the sea, a sound that shouldn't exist in the modern silence of the islands. The history of Fort Jefferson is one of hardship, disease, and despair. Constructed in 1846, it was meant to be an impenetrable guardian of the Gulf. But isolation, combined with tropical heat and poor living conditions, turned it into something else entirely, a prison of the body and the soul. By the 1860s, during the Civil War, it had become a military prison for deserters and criminals. The brick walls held in not just prisoners, but their hopelessness. One of the most famous inmates was Dr. Samuel Mudd, the physician accused of aiding John Wilkes Booth. After the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln, Mudd was imprisoned at Fort Jefferson in 1865, where he endured both physical and psychological torment. He spent long nights tending to fellow prisoners suffering from yellow fever, watching many die in agony. It was said that Mudd's compassion for the sick eventually earned him a pardon, but others believed he had struck a bargain with something far darker than the government. To this day, visitors claim to see a shadowy figure in a tattered Dr. S. coat walk in the corridors at night, lantern in hand. His face pale and sorrowful, some hear the faint jingle of metal keys, followed by the creak of doors opening where no one stands. Rangers who sleep within the fort report dreams filled with feverish murmurs and coughing echoes of the epidemic that once ravaged the garrison. The yellow fever outbreak of 1867 was one of the darkest chapters in the Florida's history. With no way to escape, soldiers and prisoners alike succumbed to the illness, their bodies stacked in shallow graves just beyond the Fort's walls. Ida S. said that their restless spirits never found peace. On moonlit nights, small ripples appear in the surrounding waters, though no wind stirs. People who camp on the beaches sometimes wake to see pale, glowing faces just beneath the surface, faces that vanish when touched by light. Those who have dared to stay overnight at Fort Jefferson describe an oppressive atmosphere that grows thicker as the sun sets. Doors slam on their own, footsteps echo along the ramparts, and the air turns suddenly cold, as if unseen entities pass through. Equipment malfunctions, cameras die without explanation, and whispering voices drift from the empty cells. A few visitors have left in panic, refusing to return. One park ranger once recounted an experience that chilled him to the core. While making his nightly rounds, he heard what sounded like men arguing in one of the darkened corridors. The voices were low but urgent, one pleading, the other furious. When he reached the cell block, the sound stopped. The door stood open, but the rooms were empty. Later, when he reviewed his radio log, he discovered that the exact words he heard, euconity levus urea were the same as those recorded in an old diary written by a prisoner over a century ago. The Fort's isolation seems to trap more than just memories. Visitors describe a strange sensation of being watched, even in daylight. Some say the spirits of soldiers still stand guard, refusing to abandon their post. Others believe the souls of the prisoners linger, unable to escape the despair that consumed them. The wind to the corridor sounds like sighs, and the sea beyond the walls seems to whisper secrets that only the dead understand. Even outside the fort, the islands carry their own mysteries. Divers exploring the shallow reefs near the fortress have reported seeing shapes drifting in the water, and not fish, but pale human forms. One diver claimed he saw a man-ass face staring up from the seabed, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. When he surfaced, there was no trace of anyone else. The dry tortugas are beautiful, but their beauty hides centuries of anguish. The salt air corrodes not only the iron of the old cannons, but also the fragile line between the living and the dead. Every echo, every chill, every flicker of shadow reminds those who visit that history never truly fades, it lingers, whispering through the corridors, clinging to the brick and sea mist. Whether the stories are born of imagination or something far older, one thing is certain: Fort Jefferson stands as a monument to more than just military history. It stands as a tomb for the forgotten, a silent witness to suffering, and a beacon for the restless souls of the Gulf. Out here, where the ocean meets the sky, and time feels suspended, the spirits of the dry tortugas endure, forever watching, forever waiting, bound by the echoes of their past, forever trapped in their eternal vigil. At the mouth of Tampa Bay, where the calm Gulf waters meet the open sea, lies a small island that time seems to have forgotten. To most, it appears peaceful, a sliver of land crowned by a lonely lighthouse. That has stood for more than a century and a half. But beneath that serenity lies a history steeped in tragedy, isolation, and the whispers of restless souls who never left. The Egmont Key Lighthouse has watched over sailors since 1848, guiding ships away from the dangerous shoals that once claimed countless lives. Through hurricanes, wars, and years of abandonment, it has endured, but it carries with it the weight of every soul lost to the sea around it. Visitors who come to explore the ruins, the lighthouse, and the wild beaches often speak of an unease they cannot quite explain, as though the island itself is alive and aware of their presence. When night falls, Egmont Key transforms. The sound of the mainland fade, and the steady pulse of waves takes on an eerie rhythm. The lighthouse beam sweeps across the dark water, casting fleeting shadows that seem to move of their own accord. Many who have ventured up the spiral stairs of the old lighthouse report feeling watched, their skin prickling with cold though the air is thick and warm. Some claim to see shadowy figures ascending the steps ahead of them, only to vanish when they reach the landing. Others hear whispers echoing from the top, soft voices murmuring words that dissolve into the wind. Caretakers and rangers who have stayed overnight on Egmont Key often tell of strange lights floating over the sea. They drift slowly, like lanterns carried by unseen hands, before sinking into the waves or rising high into the night sky. Locals say these lights belong to the spirits of sailors and passengers from the dozens of ships that met their end on the reefs nearby. Long before the lighthouse was built, Egmont Key was a graveyard for ships. The shifting sands and sudden storms of the Gulf made the waters treacherous. Even the smallest navigation error could send a vessel crashing into the coral shoals. Survivors would wash ashore, weak and broken, only to find themselves stranded on a barren island with little food or water. Many never made it off. Their bones were buried in the sand, and some say their spirits still wander the beaches, searching for a way home that the sea will never give them. One of the oldest tales tells of the Lantern Man, a spectral figure said to appear near the lighthouse after midnight. He carries a dim light and walks the shoreline, calling out names no one recognizes. Some witnesses claim that when the fog rolls in, his lantern can be seen moving slowly along the beach, as if searching for lost sailors. Others say that if you follow the light, it leads you into the surf, and those who go too far never return. Egmont Kea's haunted reputation deepened during the Civil War. When Union forces took control of the island, the lighthouse was an important navigation point, but the war brought death even to this remote outpost. Soldiers stationed there reported hearing footsteps on empty watchtowers and seeing figures moving along the fortifications after dark. During storms, voices were said to call out from the sea, crying for rescue long after the real survivors had been found or drowned. Later, in the late 1800s, Egmont Key became the site of Fort Dade, a coastal defense installation meant to protect Tampa Bay, housed hundreds of soldiers and their families, but its isolation wore on them. Supplies came in frequently, and the Islanda mosquitoes carried fever. Death was a constant visitor. When the fort was finally abandoned in the 1920s, the jungle began to reclaim its brick roads and concrete gun batteries. Today, their ruins remain a silent, crumbling reminders of those who once lived, fought, and died there. Visitors who walk the overgrown paths sometimes hear the faint sound of marching boots or distant bugle calls echoing across the wind. Some who have camped near the lighthouse describe waking to the sound of a bell, a sheepa bell, a ringing somewhere out on the water. But when they look, the sea is calm and empty. Others tell of seeing footprints in the sand that lead from the surf to the lighthouse steps and simply stop, as if their maker vanished into thin air. Cameras malfunction, flashlights flicker, and radios pick up static that sometimes carries faint, indistinct voices. A few accounts speak of a woman, in white, who appears near the old lighthouse keeper's house. She is seen walking slowly along the edge of the beach, her hair flowing as if underwater, her face hidden in shadow. Some say she was the wife of a keeper who drowned in a hurricane. Others believe she is the spirit of a shipwreck victim who died on the island, and now lingers, drawn to the light that never led her home. Egmont Key's storms have a power of their own. During hurricanes, when the wind screams and the sea rises to swallow the shore, locals swear the island glows faintly not from the lighthouse, but from countless lights moving among the ruins. They drift like fireflies through the darkness, appearing over the fort's walls and across the beach. Some say they are the souls of the dead rising with the storm, restless and wild. Even in daylight, the island carries a sense of melancholy. The gulls cry endlessly, the grass sways over forgotten graves, and the lighthouse stands watch as it always is, scarred by time but unyielding. Its walls have seen too much to ever be at peace. Though tourists come and go, few stay long. Many leave feeling as if something unseen followed them, a presence lingering at the edge of thought. Some say they dream of waves crashing against stone, of lantern light flickering in fog, of voices calling their names from far away. Egmont Key remains a place caught between worlds, a half land, half memory, half ghost. Its lighthouse still guides ships through the darkness, but perhaps it also guides the lost souls who haunt its shores, forever seeking a light that once promised salvation. Here, where the Gulf meets the bay, the dead still walk with the living, and the whispers of the sea tell stories that no one can ever quite forget. At the southern tip of Volusia County, where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Indian River, stands one of Florida's most striking landmarks, the Ponce de Leon Inlet Lighthouse. Rising more than 170 feet above the shoreline, its red brick tower has guided sailors since the late 1800s. But beyond its historic beauty and maritime legacy lies something deeper, something far less visible, a haunting presence that refuses to fade. Generations of keepers tended its light, watching over ships that battled treacherous currents and unpredictable storms. Yet, for all its years of faithful service, the lighthouse has also become known for strange happenings that defy explanation. Visitors and staff alike have reported ghostly figures gliding through its spiral stairway, sudden icy drafts in the middle of Florida's humid heat, and disembodied voices that call their names when no one else is near. It is said that the spirits of lost sailors, drawn by the light that once promised safety, still linger near the tower. Their presence is strongest on stormy nights, when thunder shakes the sea and lightning splits the sky. Some believe these restless souls returned to the lighthouse because it was the last thing they saw before their ships were swallowed by the ocean. The Ponce de Leon Inlet itself has always been a dangerous place. Shifting sands and hidden reefs have wrecked ships for centuries. Before the lighthouse was built in 1887, hundreds of sailors perished along this stretch of coast. Their bones were claimed by the sea, but their stories seem to echo through the wind that whistles around the tower. Locals say that on certain nights, when the tide is high and the fog rolls in thick from the Atlantic, faint cries can be heard across the water, the desperate voices of those still calling for help that never came. The most famous spirit said to haunt the lighthouse is that of a former keeper named William Hargreaves. According to old records, Hargreaves was devoted to his duty, known for his punctuality and discipline. He lived with his family in the keeper's quarters at the base of the tower, maintaining the lamp and ensuring it shone every night, no matter the weather. But one violent storm changed everything. As the story goes, Hargreaves was caught in a sudden squall while trying to secure equipment outside the lantern room. The winds were fierce, the rain blinding, and the sea below roared like a living beast. When morning came, his body was never found, only his hat, washed ashore days later. From that time on, strange things began to happen. The light would flicker unexpectedly, and the heavy door to the tower would swing open on its own, as though someone invisible had entered. Even now, visitors who climb the lighthouse claim to feel a presence beside them. A cool, weightless sensation, as if someone were ascending the stairs in step with them. At night, staff sometimes hear the clanking of chains and the turning of keys, though no one is there. Some say Ida S. Hargreaves himself, still tending to his post. Unwilling to abandon the light he once vowed to protect. During hurricanes, the phenomenon grows stronger. The beacon burns steady, yet shadows move against its glow. Rangers stationed nearby have reported seeing a faint silhouette pacing the lantern room, peering out toward the stormy sea. They believe Ida as the keeper as spirit, warning ships of danger just as he did in life. The temperature inside the tower drops without reason during these storms, and the sound of heavy boots echo up the stairwell. When the storm passes, the strange activity fades until the next one arrives. But Hargreaves is not the only ghost said to dwell here. There are stories of sailors from long-forgotten shipwrecks who appear on the beach below the lighthouse. At dusk, witnesses have seen figures dressed in ragged uniforms, walking slowly along the sand before vanishing into the surf. Sometimes they are accompanied by the smell of salt and smoke, as if the wrecks that took their lives are still burning beneath the waves. Fishermen who anchor near the inlet after dark often speak of lights bobbing on the water, and not from passing boats, but small, glowing orbs that drift in silence before plunging beneath the surface. They believe these are the souls of drowned sailors, searching for the light that was meant to guide them home. Some refuse to fish there at night anymore, saying the sea itself feels alive, watching. Inside the lighthouse, reports of strange voices persist. Many describe hearing their own names whispered softly, sometimes from above, sometimes from below. Others say they hear faint weeping or the sound of a distant foghorn when none are in use. Tour guides have felt invisible hands brush their shoulders, and some visitors find their cameras malfunctioning the moment they reach the top. A few who dare to linger after closing hours describe hearing the slow, deliberate creak of footsteps climbing the stairs behind them. Yet, when they turn around, no one is there. One particularly chilling account came from a volunteer who stayed late one evening to polish the brass fittings inside the lantern room. As she worked, she noticed movement in the reflection of the glass A figure standing just outside on the balcony. Thinking it was a co-worker, she turned to greet them, but the balcony was empty. A gust of wind slammed the door behind her, and when she reopened it moments later, the entire structure seemed to hum with a deep, resonant vibration, like the echo of a distant foghorn. She left the tower that night and never returned after dark again. Those who believe in supernatural say that the Ponce de Leon Inlet Lighthouse acts as a beacon not just for ships, but for souls. Its light cuts through the veil between worlds, attracting those who were lost at the sea. Perhaps the spirits come to find comfort in the glow, or perhaps they linger to protect others from sharing their fate. Either way, their presence is undeniable to those who have felt it. Today, the lighthouse stands beautifully restored, a symbol of endurance against time and tide. Yet, beneath the laughter of tourists and the hum of modern life, the island still holds its secrets. On quiet nights, when the waves break softly against the rocks and the wind carries a scent of salt through the air, one might still hear the whisper of the keeper's warning, or glimpse a shadow moving against the light A. Proof that even death cannot extinguish a duty so deeply bound to the sea. At the very tip of the Florida Keys, where the land dissolves into turquoise waters and sunsets paint the sky in fire and gold, lies Key West, a place that feels timeless. Tourists come for the Islanda as charm, its palm-lined streets, its music, and its ocean breeze. But behind the laughter, the rum, and the bright colors, Key West hides something far older and darker. For centuries, the island has been a crossroads of tragedy, of shipwrecks, storms, betrayal, and death. Beneath its tropical beauty, the restless dead still walk. Locals say that Key West is alive with spirits. Every street, every wharf, every shadowed corner has a story to tell. Ghost tours that wind through Old Town speak of strange lights flickering in the fog, footsteps following from behind, and whispers that vanish into the salt air. The past here refuses to die quietly. Long before hotels and bars filled Duval Street, Key West was a lawless frontier. In the early 1800s, wrecking salvaging goods from ships that ran aground on the nearby reefs, was the Islanda's most profitable trade. The waters around the Keys were treacherous, claiming hundreds of vessels each year. When a ship struck the reef, wreckers would rush to the scene, often under the cover of storms, to claim what they could before the sea swallowed the rest. Some wreckers were heroes, saving sailors from drowning. Others were less noble, letting survivors perish so they could keep the cargo. It is said that the ghosts of those betrayed sailors still linger. On moonlit nights, fishermen report seeing figures standing on the sandbars miles offshore and men waving silently for help, their faces pale and waterlogged. When boats draw near, the figures fade into the mist, leaving only the faint scent of brine. The harbor, too, holds its share of haunting tales. Late at night, when the tide is high and the streets are quiet, a soft glow sometimes appears over the water. Locals call them sailors' lights. They drift above the waves like lanterns, sometimes moving toward the docks, sometimes vanishing beneath the surface. Many believe they are the spirits of drowned men returning to the island that betrayed them, men whose bodies were never buried, whose souls still yearn for home. In the heart of Old Town, where wooden houses lean close together and balconies sag with age, strange things happen after dark. Doors open by themselves. Music echoes from empty rooms. People walking alone have felt a sudden chill, followed by the sensation of being watched. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a man dressed in 19th century naval uniform, seen wandering near the old harbor. Witnesses say his face is calm but hollow, his eyes reflecting the shimmer of the sea. He's believed to be the spirit of a British sailor who died in a duel long ago, shot through the heart over a woman's affection. Dueling was once common in Key West. The island's heat and isolation bred tempers as fierce as the storms that battered its shores. Many grudges were settled with pistols at dawn, and the dead were buried quickly in the coral soil. But some never left. In the early morning hours, people walking near the old cemetery have heard gunshots echo through the fog, though the streets are empty and the only witnesses are the sleeping roosters. Others have seen two shadowy figures standing face to face beneath the trees, locked in a silent standoff that repeats endlessly, as if time itself refuses to let them finish what they began. The Key West Cemetery is among the most haunted places on the island. Founded in 1847 after a hurricane swept bodies from the old burial ground, it is a labyrinth of cracked tombs and tilted headstones. Locals say the energy there is heavy and not evil, but ancient, like a weight that never lifts. Visitors walking among the graves sometimes hear laughter or the soft rustle of skirts. Some have seen a woman in a long dress wandering the paths, her face veiled, her footsteps soundless. When approached, she fades like smoke. Others have reported the cries of sailors whose names have been long forgotten, their voices rising on the night breeze before disappearing into silence. Even the Islanda-esque famous buildings bear ghosts of their own. The old Curry Mansion, once home to one of Key West's most influential families, is said to echo with the sounds of footsteps and piano music long after the doors are locked. Guests who stay overnight describe waking to see a faint figure standing at the foot of the bed, a woman in Victorian dress, who watches quietly before vanishing into the dark. But perhaps the most chilling stories come from the sea. The waters around Key West are littered with wrecks, many of them still visible to divers. Some who explore these underwater graves speak of strange occurrences, cold spots in warm currents, the sound of hammering echoing from the hulls, and the sudden feeling that they are not alone. One diver described seeing the shadow of a man swimming alongside him, wearing old-fashioned boots and clothing. When he turned his light toward the figure, it was gone, leaving only a trail of bubbles rising to the surface. Local legend says that the island's energy a mix of tropical life, human emotion, and centuries of death acts like a magnet for spirits. Key West sits at a place where lines of energy cross, where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin. The island's constant movement, the tides, the storms, the endless cycle of life and decay, seems to feed the presence of those who can't let go. Some say the spirits are drawn not by vengeance, but by memory. This was the last place they knew, the last shore they touched, and so they remain tethered, unable to drift away. On certain nights, when the streets fall silent and the ocean hums softly in the distance, the island feels different. The air grows cooler, the palm fronds still. From the harbor, a faint glow may appear, moving gently across the water. Somewhere in the shadows, a whisper drifts a name, a warning, a plea. Every breeze carries the echoes of sailors who drowned at sea, of lovers who died in duels, of wreckers who met their own grim fate. The island thrives with life, yet its heart beats in rhythm with the dead. And when the lighthouse beam sweeps across the dark horizon, it doesn't just guide ships, it also calls home the spirits that will never leave the southernmost edge of the living world. Sanibel Island, nestled off the coast of Lee County, Florida, is known to most as a tranquil paradise, a place of soft white sand, gentle surf, and endless seashells that wash ashore like treasures from another world. Tourists arrive expecting calm sunsets and the soothing rhythm of the Gulf. But beneath that postcard beauty, the island holds a darker, older secret. When the crowds fade and the tide whispers under the moonlight, Sanibel becomes something else entirely, a haunted haven where spirits seem to linger between land and sea. Locals speak in hushed tones about the Islanda's other side. They say that when night falls, Sanibel changes. They say that when night falls, Sanibel changes. The air grows heavy. The wind carries strange sounds. And the beaches they usually lie with families and shell hunters, they grow eerily silent. It is then, in the quiet hours before dawn, that the ghosts come out to play. Fishermen returning from late-night trips have reported seeing children running along the shore, their laughter echoing faintly over the surf. The children appear pale and translucent, their feet leaving no prints in sand. Some vanish when the Boada-S light catches them. Others stop suddenly and stare toward the water, as if waiting for something to rise from the waves. A few fishermen have even sworn that when they looked closer, the Childrina-S eyes reflected not light, but darkness, like deep water. Those familiar with Sanibel-S past say these are the spirits of young passengers lost in one of the many shipwrecks that occurred just offshore. The Islanda-S coast, for all its beauty, hides dangerous reefs that have claimed countless ships over the centuries. Before lighthouses guided the way, vessels carrying settlers' supplies, and families would often strike unseen shoals and go down within sight of land. Survivors who reached the shore spoke of hearing cries in the surf long after everyone else had drowned. On moonless nights, beach walkers sometimes glimpse shadowy figures moving through the dunes atoll, indistinct shapes that drift rather than walk. They appear most often near the old lighthouse at the Islanda-S eastern tip, where storms frequently scatter debris from long-lost wrecks. Visitors have tried to follow the shadows, thinking them other people, only to find the beach empty and the air suddenly cold. The feeling lingers even after they leave, as if unseen eyes are still watching from the darkness. Stranger still are the lights seen deep within the Islanda-S forest at heart. Sanibel is lush and wild beyond its beaches, its mangroves and palm hammocks forming a labyrinth where moonlight struggles to reach the ground. Those who venture there after dark tell of glowing orbs drifting among the trees. The lights move slowly, hovering near eye level, pulsing with a soft, unnatural glow. Skeptics call them swamp gas or tricks of humidity. But those Wovi seen them up close say they move with purpose, almost as if searching. Old island families believe the lights are spirits of the drowned souls caught between the ocean and the earth, forever wandering the border where their lives ended. A century-old tale tells a ship carrying settlers and supplies that sank just off Sanibel during a sudden storm. Only a few bodies washed ashore, and the rest were lost to the sea. Soon after, strange lights began appearing in the inland woods, far from the water. People claimed they were the lost souls of those who never reached land, drawn by the Islanda-S pull, but unable to truly arrive. Even in daylight, Sanibel-S atmosphere can feel different from other islands. There is a sense of timelessness, as though the air remembers everything Theta-S ever happened here. Those who stay in the old cottages near the beach often report waking in the night to hear footsteps outside, soft and dragging through sand. When they look, there is no one there, only the imprint of wet footprints leading down to the water, ending abruptly where the tide laps the shore. The lighthouse itself has its own stories. Built in 1884, it has stood through hurricanes and shipwrecks, its beacon cutting through countless storms. But keepers who once lived there spoke of eerie occurrences. The sound of Childrina-S voices would drift up from the beach below, though none were present. The heavy iron door sometimes swung open on its own, even on calm days. One keeper-S wife wrote in her journal about a man she saw standing on the pier in the middle of the storm, a man in sailor-S clothes, drenched and still. When lightning flashed, he was gone, leaving only wet footprints that led nowhere. Those who visit today sometimes claim to see that same figure near the lighthouse stairs at dusk. He appears solid at first, but as one draws near, he fades, leaving only the faint scent of sea salt and something metallic like rust. Residents say the island has moods, days when it feels peaceful and welcoming, and nights when it turns restless and strange. During hurricanes, when the wind howls the palms and the waves crash against the shore, some swear they hear voices carried in the storm, cries for help, the echo of a Shepa-S bell, or the faint tolling of a warning that never came in time. Sanibel's native history adds another layer to its mystery. Long before European ships arrived, the Calusa people called the island home. They believed the waters around Sanibel were sacred, a place where the spirits of their ancestors dwelled. Some say that the haunting energy felt today is not only from lost sailors, but from those ancient souls disturbed by centuries of tragedy on their once holy ground. Even modern visitors can't shake the feeling that something unseen walks beside them. Photographs taken at dusk often reveal faint shapes and misty outlines where no one stood. Beachcombers searching for shells at sunrise have found old coins, fragments of pottery, or bits of shipwreck washed up after storms, as though the past refuses to stay buried. And then there are the children, the ones seen playing by the surf when the beach is empty. Sometimes they simply stand at the edge of the water, gazing out to sea as if waiting for a ship that will never come. Locals say you should never call out to them, no matter how real they look. The moment you do, the air grows colder, the wind dies, and they disappear, leaving behind only the faint sound of waves, and the feeling that you have just interrupted something ancient and sorrowful. Sanibel Island is beautiful, hauntingly so. Its white sands and crystal waters hide centuries of loss beneath their calm surface. The island belongs as much to the dead as it does to the living. When the night deepens and the sea glows faintly under the stars, it is easy to believe that those who were lost offshore still find their way back here, drawn by the same tide that has always carried them home. Anna Maria Island, a narrow barrier island off the Gulf Coast in Manatee County, Florida, is famous for its white sand beaches, turquoise waters, and timeless charm. Tourists flock here for sunsets and quiet afternoons on the pier, but beneath its idyllic surface lies a history of mystery and tragedy. For centuries, the island has been home to a small fishing community, and with that life came both prosperity and peril. The waters that feed the island with abundance also hide dangers as storms, shifting sandbars, and the unpredictable Gulf and it is here that the spirits of fishermen who never returned have been said to linger. Many of the Islanda hauntings are reported near the old fishing docks, where wooden pilings jut into the water like skeletal fingers. Witnesses tell of sudden cold drafts that sweep across the pier even on the hottest days, as though the air itself remembers the chill of the sea. Witnesses tell of sudden cold drafts that sweep across the pier even on the hottest days, as though the air itself remembers the chill of the sea. Some describe seeing shadowy figures standing at the water's edge, staring out into the Gulf with faces obscured by mist. The figures move silently, sometimes vanishing when approached, leaving behind only the faint smell of salt and brine. On foggy mornings, those who walk the docks claim to see ghostly silhouettes emerging from the mist, men in old-fashioned fishermen's coats, their eyes fixed on the horizon. Locals have long shared stories of fishermen who were lost to sudden storms, their boats swallowed by the waves, never to be recovered. It is said that these spirits sometimes return to warn the living of danger, their presence a signal to sailors and beachgoers alike. A sudden chill or the glimpse of shadow on the pier might mean a storm is approaching, a submerged hazard is nearby, or the tide is unusually treacherous. But not all of Anna Maria Island spirits are benevolent. Some stories speak of restless souls who are less forgiving. Trespassers on the docks at night report feeling invisible hands gripping their ankles or a sudden tug from the water. Feeling invisible hands gripping their ankles or a sudden tug from the water, as if the ghostly fishermen are pulling them into the depths. Those who have felt it say the experience is unlike anything physical, a mixture of fear and cold that sinks into the bones. A reminder that the sea here is both beautiful and merciless. The pier at Coquina Beach, one of the Islanda's oldest, is a frequent site of such encounters. Visitors recount seeing figures climb the wooden stairs only to disappear midway, their forms fading like mist. Some claim to hear the clanging of an unseen bell or the scrape of boots across the planks, though no one else is present. Photographs taken at dusk sometimes reveal faint outlines, barely distinguishable from the surrounding fog, that appear as though they are walking toward the water. Storms seem to awaken the spirits with the greatest intensity. During hurricanes or sudden squalls, residents report the air vibrating with soundless energy. Waves crash higher than expected, and shadows appear to move with purpose along the docks and beaches. Witnesses have described seeing spectral boats on the horizon, sails tattered, figures aboard pointing toward the shore, as though guiding or warning those still alive. One fisherman recalled a stormy night when he spotted a man standing at the end of the pier, gesturing frantically. He turned to grab his equipment, and when he looked back, the figure had vanished. But his nets were mysteriously tangled, in a pattern that suggested a warning of shallow waters ahead. Some local legends suggest that the spirits are drawn to the island not only because of tragedy, but because of unfinished business. Many who perish at sea left behind families and livelihoods dependent on their return. The Islanda has energy, a mix of life, loss, and water, hold them tethered. Children have reported seeing pale faces in the shadows of the pier at dusk, laughing silently before vanishing. Elderly residents speak of conversations with figures they swear were long-dead relatives, warning them of storms or unseen hazards. Even in the calm of day, the presence can be felt. Visitors strolling along the piers sometimes experience sudden shivers or hear whispers in the wind. The old pilings, weathered by decades of salt water and sun, seem to hum with the memory of countless departures and losses. Shells scattered along the shoreline occasionally form unusual patterns, as if arranged by unseen hands. Some people find small trinkets, lost overboard by fishermen generations ago, lie on the sand where they could not have naturally washed. Despite the haunting stories, the spirits of Anna Maria Island are intertwined with the community's identity. Fishermen, historians, and locals treat the pier with respect, passing down tales of warning and caution. They speak of the spectral figures not merely as ghosts, but as guardians of volatile, unpredictable, yet protective in their own way. Ignoring their signs, the stories warn, can be dangerous, but acknowledging them and respecting their presence is said to keep visitors safe. The island's combination of beauty and danger, life and lingering death, makes Anna Maria a place of contrasts. By night, and especially along the old docks, it becomes a place where the line between the living and the dead is thin. The fishermen lost the Gulf, their lives claimed by storms and waves, return to warn, to guide, and occasionally to punish. Walk the piers of Anna Maria Island after sunset, and you may feel a sudden chill or hear a distant scrape along the planks. Look closely into the mist, and you might catch the fleeting shadow of a fisherman, lost to the sea, standing patiently, waiting to guide or warn, tethered forever to the water that took him. Here, on this quiet island, the past never truly drifts away. It rises with the tide, walks the docks, and whispers in the wind, a reminder of the fragile line between life and the sea. Gasparilla Island, stretching along Florida's southwest coast, is a place of sun, sand, and history. By day, visitors walk along its pristine beaches, swim in the gentle Gulf waters, and admire the historic Boca Grande lighthouse, standing sentinel over the shoreline. But beneath the Islanda's idyllic exterior lies a shadowed past, one intertwined with pirates, smuggling, and whispers of treasure lost time. Locals and visitors alike claim that Gasparilla Island is haunted, a place where the living brush shoulders with restless spirits from centuries ago. The legend of Gasparilla, the pirate Joseph copyright Gaspar, also called Gasparilla, the bold, has persisted for generations. According to tales passed down along the Gulf Coast, Gaspar terrorized these waters in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, plundering ships and hiding his stolen gold in secret coves and tunnels along the island. Some say the pirate never left. Even after his disappearance, his spirit remains bound to the treasure he could never fully recover. Sightings of ghostly figures in tricorn hats, long coats, and boots along the sand have been reported for decades. Walkers on the beach at dawn or dusk sometimes catch fleeting glimpses of these figures moving along the waterline, disappearing when approached, leaving only footprints that vanish before the tide can reach them. Visitors also report seeing ghostly ships off the horizon. On calm evenings, when the Gulf reflects the pinks and purples of sunset, a silhouette of a schooner sometimes appears, its sails tattered and fluttering though no wind blows. Some claim to hear the faint creak of timbers, the slap of the waves against the hull, and the distant voices of men shouting orders in languages no one recognizes. Photographers have captured inexplicable shapes in the sky or on the water, pale and semi-transparent, as though the ships are trapped between worlds and neither fully the past nor present. The Islanda's dense palm groves and scrub forests seem alive with the echo of voices. Those who walk the interior trails report whispers carried on the wind, sometimes warning, sometimes laughing, sometimes singing sea shanties from centuries past. Children have claimed to see pirates crouching behind palms, watching silently before vanishing. Hikers have felt sudden cold drafts in the tropical heat, brushes of invisible hands, or the sensation of being followed, even when no one else is in sight. Some say that the spirits of Gasparilla Island are tied to the gold that was lost or hidden so long ago. Treasure hunters report feeling watched when searching the beaches or dunes, as if unseen eyes track every step. One man recounted that while digging near an abandoned pier, he felt a firm grip on his shoulder and a sudden pressure in his chest, forcing him back. He left immediately, only to return weeks later, to find his tools mysteriously rearranged, as though someone or something was guarding the hidden wealth. These stories are repeated among locals. The Islanda's ghosts do not simply drift aimlessly. They are protectors of something ancient, cursed to wander until treasure is discovered or forever denied. The Boca Grande Lighthouse, built in 1890, adds another layer to the Islanda's haunted lore. Visitors often report hearing phantom footsteps climbing its spiral stairs, voices calling and warning, lights glowing in the lantern room when the building is officially dark. Some claim the lighthouse acts as a beacon not only for ships but for spirits, guiding lost sailors, pirates, and treasure alike across the waters. On stormy nights, the lighthouse is said to shine even more brightly, casting a spectral glow of the sand and inviting the ghosts to patrol their territory. Even the beaches themselves are said to hold residual energy from centuries of piracy and shipwrecks. Walkers in the early morning hours sometimes see a figure standing at the surf, watching the waves, as if scanning the horizon for approaching vessels. When approached, the figure dissolves into mist, leaving only the imprint of wet boots in the sand. Some witnesses report hearing coins clinking or the faint scrape of a shovel in the dunes, though no one else is there. Locals warn that these sounds are signs of spirits at work, either digging, hiding, or protecting what they hold dear. Storms seem to awaken the island's spectral residents. During hurricanes or sudden squalls, residents and visitors alike report shadows moving along the beach, whispers rising from the palms, and ghostly figures pacing the shore as if checking every inch of the land. Sailors are claimed to see spectral ships navigating safely through treacherous waters, guided by unseen hands, while others report the opposite, ghostly warnings of danger, shouts of alarm carried across the surf. It is as if the spirits of Gasparilla Island exist in a delicate balance, sometimes protective, sometimes vengeful, always tied to the secrets buried on the land and offshore. Even today, the Islanda's energy is palpable to those who pause long enough to sense it. Some have glimpsed figures walking along the dunes or disappearing into the forest, only to return in the same spot weeks later. Shells scattered along the sand are sometimes found in odd patterns. Coins appear where none were dropped, and faint footprints lead nowhere but vanish under the tide, as though the spirits themselves are marking the land, guarding their treasure, and reminding the living that history is never truly buried. Gasparilla Island is a place of contrast, sun and shadow, calm waters and restless spirits, beauty and danger intertwined. Its beaches lure the living with soft sand and gentle waves, but its past calls to those who know to look closer, to listen for the whispers in the palms and the distant creak of ghostly ships. The pirates and lost sailors of Gasparilla may never find rest, bound to their hidden gold and the island that witnessed their lives and deaths. Walk its shores after sunset, and it is easy to feel the presence of eyes on you. Hear the faint laughter of men long gone, and sense that some treasure, whether gold or memory, will never truly be forgotten. Captiva Island, a narrow barrier island off the coast of Lee County, Florida, is known for its stunning beaches, turquoise waters and quiet, secluded charm. Tourists arrive seeking sun-drenched days, tidal pools filled with marine life, and the solitude of mangrove-lined trails. But beneath this idyllic surface lies a haunting history, one tied to shipwrecks, storms, and the restless souls of those claimed by the sea. The Islanda's beauty conceals a layer of mystery, a sense that the land remembers tragedies long past, and that the spirits of the lost still linger. Visitors to Captiva Island often speak of strange occurrences, particularly near sunset. As the sky turns gold and pink, the tide retreats and exposes shallow pools of water along the sand. Here, some report seeing ghostly figures standing motionless in the water, their reflections shimmering yet never quite solid. They seem to watch silently, as though guarding something or waiting for someone. Approaching these apparitions often causes them to vanish into the mist, leaving only the faint sound of waves lapping against the shore. Many who explore the mangrove forest near the Islanda's interior report a different kind of haunting. The twisting roots and dense foliage create shadows that seem to move independently. Hikers and photographers have described hearing whispers carried on the wind, voices so soft they could almost be imagination, yet unmistakably human. Some say the voices are warnings, guiding the living away from danger, while others are mournful cries of those who never reach safety. On certain nights, faint lights flicker among the dunes, moving in patterns that mimic walking figures or lanterns carried along long-forgotten trails. The legends surrounding Captiva Island are rooted in its perilous maritime history. The waters off its coast are shallow, lined with reefs and sandbars, and have claimed countless ships over the centuries. Storms were frequent and unpredictable, turning what should have been a safe passage into a graveyard of splintered vessels. Survivors often washed ashore with nothing but the clothes on their backs, and many did not survive long enough to tell the tale. Over time, locals began to speak of the island as a place where the spirits of these shipwreck victims returned, bound to the shoreline they could not leave. One common story tells a lone figure seen standing at the edge of a tide pool, staring out to the horizon as the sun dips below the waterline. Witnesses claim the figure wears tattered clothing that seems centuries old, moving slowly with the tide as if searching for a missing ship or a loved one. When approached, the figure disappears, leaving behind only footprints that vanish as quickly as they are made, erased by the retreating waters. Some who have encountered these spirits describe a chill that runs through the air, sudden and sharp, even in the warmth of Florida evening. The mangroves themselves seem to hold echoes of the past. Photographers often capture faint, translucent shapes in their lenses, a figure standing or walking where no one is present. Children playing along the trails sometimes point to shadows that are not their own, or hear soft singing drifting through the twisted roots. Residents speak of sudden changes in temperature, inexplicable breezes, and the feeling of being watched when walking alone in these secluded areas. All agree that the island carries an energy that is both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder that nature and the supernatural coexist here. Shipwrecks remain a central theme of Captiva-esque ghost stories. Old maps and diaries recount countless vessels lost offshore during storms, some carrying families, some merchants, and others laden with goods. It is said that the souls of those lost return to the island, drawn by the sand and surf that claimed them. Nighttime visitors have reported seeing multiple figures walking along the beach, moving silently between the water and the dunes. Sometimes, the shadows appear to be reenacting the moments before disaster, a crew struggling to launch a lifeboat, a family huddled together, a lone sailor calling out in the wind. These apparitions vanish when approached. Some accounts describe more subtle manifestations. Early morning walkers have heard the sound of footsteps along the tide line. Others have seen glowing lights beneath the water, as if lanterns from sunken ships illuminate the surf from below. Fishermen venturing out at dusk occasionally glimpse figures standing knee-deep in the water, pointing silently toward the shore or disappearing entirely beneath the waves. These encounters reinforce the belief that the Islanda-esque spirits are not malicious, but rather tethered to shore, bound by unfinished business, and the pull of the ocean that took them. Even the Islanda-esque natural rhythms seem affected by the lingering presence of these souls. Winds swirl differently along certain stretches of beach. Tides rise in unusual patterns, and fog sometimes creeps across the dunes with uncanny precision. Even the Islanda-esque natural rhythms seem affected by the lingering presence of these souls. Winds swirl differently along certain stretches of beach. Tides rise in unusual patterns, and fog sometimes creeps across the dunes with uncanny precision. Local legends claim that these phenomena are signs that the spirits are watching, guiding, or warning those who come to the island. While many visitors never encounter anything unusual, those who do describe experiences that leave them unsettled, yet strangely respectful of the Islanda-esque power. Captiva Islanda's allure lies in its combination of beauty and mystery. Its white sand beaches and tranquil waters conceal centuries of shipwrecks, storms, and sorrow. Ghostly figures, whispered voices, and moving lights serve as a reminder that the land holds memory of lives lost to the sea and souls forever tied to the shore. For those willing to notice, the island is not only a place of escape and relaxation, but a quiet, haunting landscape where the past remains vividly alive, and the spirits of shipwreck victims continue to walk between the tide pools, the dunes, and the mangroves, ever watchful, ever waiting. Amelia Island, off the northeastern coast of Florida in Nassau County, is celebrated for its beaches, maritime history, and quaint historic district. Yet beyond the charming streets and ocean views lies a darker side of the island, centered on the ruins of its old Spanish fort. Time and tide have worn down the stone walls, but the memories of those who fought and died here linger, creating an atmosphere thick with the echoes of the past. Visitors and locals alike speak of strange sensations, unexplained sounds, and shadowy apparitions that refuse to rest. The Spanish fort, constructed in the 18th century, was once a formidable defensive position guarding the strategic inlet. Soldiers stationed here faced harsh conditions, disease, and constant threats from both enemy forces and the unforgiving sea. Many lost their lives defending the fort, and the battles that raged within its walls left scars that go beyond the physical. Today, the ruins are crumbling in moss-covered walls, broken cannons, and eroded pathways. Yet those who step among them sometimes feel as though the fort is still alive, haunted by the events that shaped its history. Visitors often report seeing shadowy figures moving through the ruins at dusk. These shapes are rarely solid, more like silhouettes shifting in the corner of the eye, yet their presence is unmistakable. Some people describe glimpsing soldiers dressed in period uniforms, rifles or muskets in hand, marching along the crumbling parapets. They seem intent, focused on tasks invisible to the living, replaying the moments that ended their lives centuries ago. Witnesses often feel a cold draft sweep past them as these apparitions appear, the sudden drop in temperature sending shivers down the spine. Many have also reported hearing the sounds of battle, the distant crack of gunfire, the clash of swords, and the unmistakable rhythm of marching boots echoing across the ruins. These sounds appear without explanation, sometimes fading as quickly as they begin, other times lingering long enough to chill even the most skeptical visitor. Some claim that if you listen carefully, you can hear shouted commands in Spanish or English, the voices overlapping and repeating as though trapped in an endless loop of conflict. The Florida-esque cold spots are perhaps the most commonly experienced phenomena. Areas that should be warm and sunlit suddenly turn icy, the air thick with a presence that cannot be seen. Walkers passing through these spots report feeling watched, the hair on their arms standing on end, as though the spirits of soldiers are nearby, observing their intrusion. Some have described an almost physical pressure, as if invisible hands are pressing against their shoulders, urging them to leave the ruins before night falls. Amelia Islanda's Fort has also become a hotspot for photographs that capture the inexplicable. Visitors often notice orbs, misty streaks, or faint human shapes in pictures taken around the ruins. Some photos show figures kneeling or crouched, as if tending to a cannon or checking a weapon. These spectral images reinforce the belief that the soldier spirits are endlessly replaying the moments leading up to their deaths, unable to escape the memories of the fort's violent past. Even the surrounding grounds are said to be haunted. The pathways leading to the fort are lined with trees that cast long shadows at sunset, and those shadows sometimes seem to move with intention. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps on these paths when no one else is nearby, or feeling sudden gusts of wind that carry whispered warnings. Some speak of the sensation of being followed, turning to see nothing, yet still sensing a presence just behind them. Stories handed down through local lore suggest that these spirits are tied to unfinished business. Soldiers who perished defending the fort are believed to remain here, replaying their last moments in a ceaseless loop. Some visitors say that the apparitions are not necessarily hostile, but rather trapped in the emotional residue of battle, a fear, duty, and loyalty bound so tightly that they cannot move on. However, others warn that those who linger too long in the ruins may feel the weight of that energy, sometimes leaving shaken or unnerved by the intensity of the fort's ghostly inhabitants. Amelia Island itself seems to respond to these spirits. Storms and high winds sometimes intensify the phenomena, amplifying sounds of marching and musket fire, while misty mornings make the apparitions more vivid, cloaked in fog that blends with the ruins. Even on calm, sunny days, the shadows seem to linger longer than they should, moving just at the edge of vision. It is as though the fort itself remembers, holding the echoes of past conflicts and the lives lost within its walls. For those who walk among the ruins of Amelia Islanda's Spanish fort, the experience is often both awe-inspiring and unnerving. The combination of history, tragedy, and the unexplained creates an atmosphere unlike anywhere else on the island. The ghostly soldiers, marching, fighting, and guarding, serve as a reminder that the past never fully dies. On Amelia Island, the echoes of battle remain, carried by the wind through crumbling stone and overgrown paths, waiting for the living to bear witness to the moments that time cannot erase. Here, amid the ruins, the Islanda's haunted history is tangible. Shadows move where no one stands, footsteps echo across empty courtyards, and the cold air seems to carry the weight of centuries. Amelia Island Spanish Fort is more than a relic of history. It is a stage where the past plays on endlessly, a place where the spirits of fallen soldiers continue to defend their ground, replaying their final moments in the hope that someone, anyone, will remember. Fort George Island, just off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, is a place of serene natural beauty, with moss-draped oaks, tidal marshes, and quiet trails that wind through centuries of history. But beneath its picturesque surface lies a shadowed past, one that lingers among the old plantation ruins scattered across the island. Once a site of both colonization and forced labor, the island carries the weight of countless lives, their struggles, fears, and sorrows woven into the very soil. Today, many who visit Fort George Island speak of a palpable presence, of restless spirits who have not found peace, of experiences that defy explanation. The ruins of the old plantations are the focal point of these haunting reports. Crumbling brick foundations, weathered chimneys, and overgrown pathways serve as silent reminders of lives long gone. Visitors walking along these trails often feel an unsettling stillness, a sense that the land itself is watching. Many report seeing shadowy figures moving just out of the corner of their eye, walking along paths where no one else is present. These figures appear human but indistinct, their forms blurred, as if caught between worlds. Some are said to resemble colonists in long coats and wide-brimmed hats, while others appear as darker shapes, moving silently with purpose. Ghostly voices are another frequent phenomenon. Guests exploring the ruins often describe hearing their own names called softly, carried by the wind through the mossy oaks. Sometimes these calls are distant and almost gentle, like someone attempting to make contact. And other times they are urgent, echoing across empty courtyards and hallways. Visitors report sudden sensations of being followed, turning quickly to see no one, only to hear the faint sound of footsteps behind them. In some cases, voices overlap, creating a chorus of whispers that seems to come from every direction at once. Inside the remains of the larger plantation buildings, unexplained phenomena continue. Guests have felt cold drafts that have no source, gusts of wind sweeping through sealed rooms, and sudden drops in temperature that send shivers down the spine. A few have claimed to feel hands brushing past them, light yet unmistakable, as if someone invisible has walked alongside them. These touches are often fleeting but leave a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that the past is never fully gone. Local lore suggests that the spirits of both slaves and colonists remain tied to Fort George Island. The plantations were sites of intense labor and suffering, and the hardships endured there are believed to leave a lasting imprint on the land. The enslaved people who worked tirelessly, often under brutal conditions, are thought to have left behind echoes of their fear, pain, and resilience. Some visitors have reported seeing figures bent as if carrying invisible burdens, moving along the old work paths or disappearing suddenly into the marshes. Others have felt the emotional weight of sorrow and longing, a silent reminder of the lives cut short or constrained by circumstance. The colonists, too, appear in ghostly form. Some sightings depict men in colonial attire walking with an air of authority, perhaps replaying the routines of plantation management or pacing in anticipation of dire-esque work. Others see women in period dresses gliding along the grounds, their faces obscured by shadows, as if caught between the roles expected of them and the passage of time. It is said that both the colonists and the enslaved are bound to the island, their spirits intertwined in ways that are incomprehensible to the living. Visitors exploring the island at dusk often encounter the most vivid phenomena. The moss-draped oaks cast long, twisting shadows over the ruins, creating shapes that appear almost human. Figures have been seen moving among the trees, vanishing when approached, leaving only a sense of being watched. The rustle of leaves sometimes carries whispers, as if the wind itself is speaking, repeating fragments of conversations from centuries past. Those who linger too long in these moments often feel a heaviness, an almost physical presence pressing against their awareness. Photographers have captured evidence that seems to confirm these encounters. Orbs of light, faint silhouettes, and shadowy shapes appear in images taken along the plantation paths and in the ruins of the main houses. In some photos, figures appear kneeling or bent, as if performing tasks long forgotten. These images reinforce a belief that Fort George Island is a place where history is alive, replaying itself through the presence of those who cannot fully leave it behind. The Islanda's natural environment also seems to amplify these phenomena. The marshes, tidal creeks, and dense oak forests provide an atmosphere of quiet isolation, where sounds carry in unexpected ways. A single footstep may echo across the ruins, yet when followed, reveals no one there. The tides themselves seem to pulse with the memories of the past, and fog rolling in from the river can transform the landscape into a ghostly tableau, where the line between living and dead feels impossibly thin. Fort George Island is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. The ruins of the plantations are more than historical markers. They are stages upon which the stories of the living and the dead continue to unfold. Shadowy figures whisper names, unexplained touches, and cold drafts all serve as reminders that the Islanda's history is deeply felt by those who remain unseen. The spirits of slaves and colonists, bound to the land by tragedy, labor, and loss, seem to move through time, waiting for visitors to bear witness to the moments that were never fully resolved. Walking along the mossy paths or through the remnants of plantation walls, one can feel the presence of the past in every step. Fort George Island holds a unique energy, where history is etched not only in bricks and mortar, but in the lingering essence of lives once lived. It is a place of beauty and reflection, yes, but also a place where the restless, unseen inhabitants continue their silent watch, carrying stories untold and memories that will not fade, ever present among the trees, the marshes, and the ruins of the island. Kalahdesi Island, nestled off the coast of Clearwater, Florida, is renowned for its pristine beaches, emerald waters, and serene natural beauty. By day, the island is a paradise of soft sand, gentle waves, and quiet trails through dense mangroves. Visitors arrive expecting solitude, the soothing calls of seabirds and the soft rustle of palms in the breeze. Yet beneath this tranquil surface lies a history of tragedy and loss, and when night falls, the island transforms. The calm that defines Kaldesi by day gives way to a lingering presence, a sense that the island is watched, and that the spirits of those long lost to the sea still roam its shores. Visitors often recount unusual experiences when exploring the island after sunset. The mangrove forest, twisted and dense, seemed to conceal movement just beyond the edge of vision. Shadowy figures appear to drift silently among the roots, walking along narrow trails that weave through the tangled undergrowth. Some witnesses describe these figures as human in shape, but indistinct, their forms flickering like candlelight in the wind. Others say they see groups of people moving purposefully, as if performing tasks from long ago, vanishing when approached. Many who encounter these apparitions report a sudden chill, an eerie sensation that brushes against the skin, though the air remains warm and humid. As if performing tasks from long ago, vanishing when approached. Many who encounter these apparitions report a sudden chill, an eerie sensation that brushes against the skin, though the air remains warm and humid. An eerie sensation that brushes against the skin, though the air remains warm and humid. Though the air remains warm and humid. The beaches of Kaldesi Island are another focal point for strange activity. At twilight, faint lights sometimes appear just offshore or along the dunes, floating without source or explanation. Some visitors describe these lights as lanterns carried by figures walking along the sand, while others see them glimmering in the shallow waters, bobbing gently as if guided by unseen hands. A few have reported hearing voices carried by the wind they calls, whispers or faint laughter that seem to come from nowhere. In some cases, these sounds echo through the mangroves, only to fade before anyone can locate their origin, leaving an unsettling sense that the island itself is alive with memory. Local legend ties much of Kaldesi Islanda's haunting to shipwrecks. The waters off Clearwater have long been treacherous, claiming vessels that ventured too close to the shallow reefs or were caught in sudden storms. Survivors wash ashore on the island, only to face isolation, exposure, and the fear of an uncertain fate. Over time, it is said, some of these lost souls never fully departed, their spirits lingering in the mangroves, on the beaches, and along the salt-stained trails where they once sought safety. The restless energy of these shipwreck victims is thought to manifest in the ghostly figures, strange lights, and whispered sounds that visitors encounter to this day. Even during the day, attentive observers sometimes sense the lingering presence of the past. Walkers along the boardwalks or narrow trails report feeling eyes upon them, hearing footsteps in sand that stop when they stop, or catching glimpses of movement just beyond the trees. Photographers have captured inexplicable shapes in their shots. Misty figures among the mangroves, flickering lights hovering above the dunes, and pale silhouettes on the shoreline. These images, though subtle, reinforce the idea that Kaldesi Island is more than a natural retreat. It is a landscape steeped in history, grief, and unresolved energy. The island's mangroves themselves seem to amplify these phenomena. The dense canopy traps sounds and shadows, creating the impression of a world separate from reality. Visitors describe hearing soft murmurs weaving through the trees, sometimes in words that seem almost recognizable, other times as fragments of conversation from a distant time. These voices are rarely threatening, but they are persistent, insistent, a reminder that the island carries memory. Some explorers have felt sudden touches along their arms or shoulders, fleeting yet unmistakable, as though an unseen presence is moving to the foliage alongside them. Storms and high tides often intensify the hauntings. When the Gulf roars and winds whip across the island, lights appear more vividly along the dunes. Shadows move more deliberately through the mangroves, and the whispers seem louder, almost urgent. Survivors of recent storms have described seeing ghostly figures pacing the beaches, or appearing to guide those who remain on the island to safety. Yet at the same time, there is a sense that some of these spirits are bound to the land, unable to leave, eternally replaying the moments of their arrival and struggle. The isolation of Kaladeshi Island contributes to its eerie reputation. With limited access and few visitors after dusk, the island feels suspended in time. Each step along the sand or trail can bring a sudden awareness of the unseen, a sensation that the living have intruded upon a world that belongs to the lost. Many locals tell stories of people who return from the island visibly shaken, describing fleeting shadows, soft calls of warning, or the ghostly impression of a person walking just out of reach. Some say the spirits are protective, guiding those who respect the land, while others suggest they are restless, frustrated by the limitations of their eternal presence. Even the tide pools along the shoreline seem touched by the Islanda's haunted energy. At low tide, strange shapes appear reflected in the water, fleeting and shimmering, like the echo of past visitors now long gone. Some people have reported seeing small, translucent figures wading to the shallow pools, disappearing as they reach the edges, leaving only ripples behind. These subtle phenomena reinforce the legend that the spirits of shipwreck victims remain tethered to Kaladeshi Island, unable to move on, and eternally bound to the place where their fates change forever. Fort Matanzas, perched on the banks of the Matanzas River near St. Augustine, Florida, stands as a testament to centuries of conflict, colonial ambition, and strategic importance. Built by the Spanish in the 18th century to guard the river inlet, the small yet formidable fort has endured storms, wars, and the passage of time. But its history is not only one of stone and mortar. It is a place where echoes of the past still linger. But its history is not only one of stone and mortar. It is a place where echoes of the past still linger. Visitors often speak of unexplained phenomena, from phantom cannon fire to ghostly footsteps. And claim that the spirits of soldiers who died within its walls remain bound to the grounds. Patrolling, watching, and perhaps reliving their final moments. The fort's isolated location, on a barrier island, contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Surrounded by marshes, tidal flats, and the slow-moving waters of the river. Even in daylight, the thick Spanish moss draping the surrounding trees casts shadows across the sand and stone, giving the impression of movement where none exists. As the sun sets, the air grows heavy, and the fort seems to shift from historical relic to haunted domain. Many visitors report a sudden sense of being watched as they step across the wooden drawbridge or climb the stone battlements. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Fort Matanzas is the sound of phantom cannon fire. On calm, quiet days, the crack of unseen weapons has startled visitors, echoing across the river and marshes as if a battle were being fought out of time. Some describe it as distant and muffled, others as startlingly close, shaking the ground and stirring the air. These sounds are often accompanied by flashes of light or unexplained shadows that move along the walls and ramparts, though no source can be found. Locals suggest that these echoes are tied to the soldiers who once defended the fort, their presence replaying the violence and urgency of battle centuries later. Ghostly footsteps are another frequent occurrence. Walkers along the fort's narrow corridors and stairways report hearing the scrape of boots on stone, pacing sounds on the battlements, or the distant march of troops through the courtyard. When they turn to investigate, no one is there. Sometimes the footsteps appear to follow visitors for a time, stopping suddenly when attention is directed toward them, leaving only an unsettling silence in their wake. Some say that the cadence of the footsteps mirrors that of soldiers in formation, a spectral reminder of the discipline and routine that define life at the fort. Shadows moving among the fort's structures add to the sense of unease. These shapes often appear humanoid but indistinct, fleeting glimpses along the walls or across the sand. Witnesses have described figures standing at the edge of the ramparts, appearing to gaze toward the river as if awaiting an approaching ship or observing the surrounding waters. Others report seeing figures kneeling near the cannons, bent as if preparing or cleaning the weapons, only to vanish when approached. Some claim these are the spirits of soldiers executed or killed in battle, forever bound to the fort by duty, trauma, or unfinished business. The history of Fort Matanzas is rife with tragedy. It served as a key defensive position for the Spanish during conflicts with the British pirates and later other colonial powers. The soldiers stationed here endured harsh conditions, isolation, and the constant threat of attack. Executions and deaths in combat were not uncommon, and the fort's small size meant that every loss was felt acutely. Local legend holds that the spirits of those who perished in the fort's service remained tethered to the site, replaying moments of fear, vigilance, and duty that they could never abandon. Sudden chills, even on warm days, as though a spectral presence has brushed past them, or glimpse forms standing silently along the riverbank. The more intense the phenomena grow, a whisper wind carrying the echo of shouted commands, a fleeting shadow along the walls, a distant sound of the drawbridge moving though no one is near. Photographs taken around Fort Matanzas sometimes capture anomalies that defy explanation. Faint figures appear in doorways, misty shapes hover over battlements, or lights seem to flicker without source. Faint figures appear in doorways, misty shapes hover over battlements, or lights seem to flicker without source. Faint figures appear in doorways, misty shapes hover over battlements, or lights seem to flicker without source. These images reinforce the sense that the fort is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past persists, visible to those willing to look closely and sensitive enough to feel its presence. These images reinforce the sense that the fort is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past persists, visible to those willing to look closely and sensitive enough to feel its presence. These images reinforce the sense that the fort is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past persists, visible to those willing to look closely and sensitive enough to feel its presence. These images reinforce the sense that the fort is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past persists, visible to those willing to look closely and sensitive enough to feel its presence. Some visitors claim that these apparitions are not malevolent, but their intensity can be overwhelming, leaving a lingering awareness of the fort's violent history and the souls who endured it. Some visitors claim that these apparitions are not malevolent, but their intensity can be overwhelming, leaving a lingering awareness of the fort's violent history and the souls who endured it. Some visitors claim that these apparitions are not malevolent, but their intensity can be overwhelming, leaving a lingering awareness of the fort's violent history and the souls who endured it. Some visitors claim that these apparitions are not malevolent, but their intensity can be overwhelming, leaving a lingering awareness of the fort's violent history and the souls who endured it. Storms and tides add another layer to the fort's haunted reputation. High winds carry the faint echoes of battle through the marshes, and heavy rains create puddles that seem to reflect shadowy figures where none should exist. At night, the fort's silhouette against the darkened river can appear to shift subtly, as if the walls themselves are alive with memory. Some witnesses report hearing the distant calls of soldiers, the metallic clang of weapons, or the soft creak of doors opening and closing in abandoned halls. Fort Matanzas stands today as a monument not only to colonial ambition and military strategy, but also to the lives entwined with its history. It is a place where time folds, where the past is palpable, and where the spirits of soldiers continue to walk the ramparts, forever guarding the Matanzas River and replaying moments that history cannot erase. Key Largo, the northernmost island of the Florida Keys, is famed for its coral reefs, clear waters, and vibrant marine life. Visitors flock to its shores for snorkeling, scuba diving, and the quiet beauty of its beaches. Yet beneath the waves and along the shoreline lies a more mysterious side of Key Largo, one steeped in tragedy, loss, and ghostly legends. For centuries, these waters have claimed ships and sailors, leaving behind stories of haunting that persist to this day. Divers, fishermen, and beachgoers alike have reported encounters that defy explanation, as if the spirits of those lost at sea remain tied to the Keys, forever watching, guiding, or warning the living. Shipwrecks have long defined Key Largo's haunted reputation. The surrounding waters are dotted with reefs and sandbars, treacherous obstacles that have caused countless vessels to founder. Some of these wrecks are centuries old, remnants of trading ships, pirate vessels, and fishing boats that sank during violent storms. Divers exploring these submerged ruins often report strange occurrences. Shadows move beneath the surface, indistinct yet unmistakably human in form, as if the sailors themselves are still present. Some describe seeing figures drifting among the remains of sunken hulls, inspecting the wreckage, or standing silently as they float through the water. Phantom voices are another common phenomenon. Scuba divers and snorkelers have claimed to hear muted shouts, cries for help, or indistinct conversation while underwater, even when no other humans are nearby. The sounds seem to carry from the depths, as though the ocean itself is echoing the tragedies that occurred centuries ago. On calm days, the voices are soft and almost melodic, like distant whispers. During storms or rough seas, commanding and impossible to ignore. Some say these sounds are warnings, a way for the spirits to alert the living to danger, while others interpret them as echoes of the past, replaying the final moments of lost sailors. Sudden chills and temperature changes often accompany these experiences. Divers report feeling cold spots underwater, a sharp drop in temperature that cannot be explained by currents or depth. Beachgoers along the shore sometimes experience the same phenomenon, a sudden shiver, the hair on their arms standing on end, or the sensation of being watched. Some have felt brushes of invisible hands or a weight pressing briefly on their shoulders, fleeting sensations that vanish as quickly as they appear, yet leave a lingering unease. Locals often warn that these are signs of restless spirits, tied to the waters where they met their end. The shoreline itself is no less haunted. Walkers along Key Largoa-esque beaches have reported seeing figures in the distance, moving along the sand, only to vanish when approached. Some of these apparitions appear to be fishermen or sailors in old uniforms, carrying nets or tools, as if they are tending to tasks from a bygone era. Others appear as shadowy silhouettes, their features obscured, drifting along the waterline. Lights are sometimes seen bobbing over the waves at night, glowing faintly like lanterns carried by unseen hands. Witnesses describe the lights as both beautiful and unnerving. Storms seem to awaken the most vivid hauntings. High winds, crashing waves, and sudden squalls stir the waters, and many claim the spirits of lost sailors become more active during these times. Divers report seeing multiple figures moving quickly among wrecks, their urgency mirrored by the churning sea. Onshore, observers have described the sound of shouting or commands carried by the wind, ghostly figures pacing the sand, or spectral boats appearing briefly on the horizon before vanishing. It is as if the ocean itself channels the memories of those who perished, a glimpse into the tragedies that occurred long ago, giving the living into the tragedies that occurred long ago, giving the living into the, even during calm, sunny days, the energy of Key Largo can be felt. The coral reefs, mangrove channels, and hidden coves seem to hold memories of shipwrecks and lost lives. Divers have experienced the eerie sensation of being followed while exploring wreck sites, turning to see nothing but the shimmer of water and the play of sunlight on coral. Photographs taken underwater sometimes reveal shapes or shadows not visible to naked eye, outlines of figures standing among the wreckage, faint orbs of light, or unusual distortions in the water, reinforcing the island's haunted reputation. Local legend says that the spirits of sailors lost to storms and wrecks remain tied to Key Largo, unable to leave the waters that claimed them. Some of these spirits are believed to guide the living, warning fishermen of dangerous currents, sudden reefs, or approaching storms. Others are thought to be more restless, replaying the final moments of their lives in an endless loop, drifting among sunken ships and shadowed waters. Residents and long-time visitors speak of these phenomena with respect, treating the waters as a place where caution and reverence are warranted. The sparkling waters, vibrant reefs, and peaceful beaches by day conceal centuries of lost and lingering spirits, ghostly figures among wrecks, phantom voices over the water, sudden chills, and mysterious lights all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. Those who visit the island, especially those who venture into its waters, often leave with a heightened awareness of the unseen, a sense that the sailors who perished here continue to move through the Keys. Their presence a silent guide, a warning, and a testament to lives claimed by the sea. Fort Clinch Island, located near Fernandina Beach, Florida, is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. Dominated by the sprawling Civil War-era Fort Clinch, the island draws visitors with its well-preserved military architecture, sweeping views of the surrounding waters, and serene natural beauty. By day, it is a picturesque retreat, with trails through maritime forests, tidal marshes, and sandy beaches. But as the sun dips below the horizon, the island transforms. Visitors often speak of ghostly sightings, unexplained sounds, and a pervasive sense that the past lingers within the Fort's walls. Fort Clinch Island is not merely a historic site. It is a place where the echoes of soldiers lost to war remain, trapped in time, replaying the moments that defined their lives. The fort itself, built in the mid-19th century, was designed to protect the northern end of Amelia Island and the surrounding waterways. Its thick brick walls, cannon, and narrow corridors are reminders of a turbulent era in American history. Soldiers stationed here face harsh conditions, isolation, and the constant threat of attack. Many lost their lives due to battle, disease, or accidents within the Fort's walls. Today, the energy of these past events seems to linger, creating an atmosphere that is both fascinating and unsettling for those who explore the site. Visitors frequently report seeing shadowy figures moving through the Fort's corridors and along the battlements. These apparitions often resemble soldiers in uniform, marching in formation or patrolling the walls as if duty still calls them. Witnesses describe the figures as faint and translucent, their movements slow but deliberate. Some claim to have seen soldiers carrying muskets, standing at attention, or inspecting cannons long after the fort has been abandoned. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving behind only the faint echo of footsteps or a sudden chill in the air. Unexplained noises are another hallmark of Fort Clinch's hauntings. Visitors often report the sound of marching boots along the stone floors, the creak of doors opening and closing, and occasional metallic clinks that resemble weapons or equipment being moved. Some hear muffled voices, indistinct conversations, or shouted command that seem to come from empty rooms. These sounds can be sporadic or persistent, appearing during both the day and night, creating a sense that the fort is alive with the memories of those who once occupied it. Eerie lights have also been observed in and around the abandoned buildings. Some visitors report seeing pale, diffuse lights that seem to hover over battlements or dance along the exterior walls. These phenomena often appear at dusk or after dark, and many believe they are manifestations of the Sol de Ursa spirits. replaying the routines and vigilance of life within the fort. On stormy nights, the lights are said to intensify, accompanied by the distant sound of cannon fire or commands shouted through the wind, further blurring the line between past and present. The Fort's underground passages and storage rooms are particularly associated with paranormal activity. Visitors venturing into these tight, shadowed spaces sometimes feel sudden cold spots, as though the temperature drops without explanation. Some report fleeting touches, the sensation of hands brushing past them, or an invisible presence closely following their movements. These experiences often leave a lingering sense of unease, as though the spirits of soldiers who died in these confined areas are still present, bound to the fort by duty, trauma, or unfinished business. Even the surrounding grounds are imbued with a spectral energy. The Islanda's trails through marshes and forests and its long stretches of empty beach are said to carry the echoes of marching soldiers or distant cannon fire. Walkers have reported seeing figures in period uniforms standing at attention along the tree line or moving silently across the dunes. Some claim that the wind carries the faintest whispers of commands or conversation, and that the rustling of leaves and creaking of old trees is more than mere nature, a subtle echo of life long departed. Photographs taken at Fort Clinch sometimes reveal anomalies that seem to confirm these reports. Misty shapes appear within the Fort's doorways. Shadowy figures are captured on the battlements, and unexplained lights show up in rooms long abandoned. These images, whether blurred or faint, reinforce the perception that the fort is not only a historical landmark, but also a place where time overlaps, and where soldiers from another era continue to inhabit the space in ways unseen by the unobservant eye. Local legend holds that the spirits of soldiers who died at Fort Clinch remain trapped in its corridors, endlessly repeating the routines, duties, and tensions of their military life. Some are said to be protective, alerting visitors to unseen dangers or guiding them away from treacherous areas of the island. Others are restless, replaying the moments of fear, conflict, and duty that ended their lives, unable to find peace in the modern age. These stories are told with a mixture of reverence and caution, warning visitors to respect the island and the fort, for the past is not fully gone here. Fort Clinch Island remains a unique destination, blending natural beauty with a profound sense of history and haunting. Its brick walls, narrow corridors, and sweeping battlements are not only relics of the Civil War, but also stages where the spirits of soldiers continue to move, their presence felt through shadows, sounds, and cold drafts. Walking the fort at dusk or exploring its quiet paths is to step into a space where history and the supernatural converge. The soldiers who gave their lives here may be long gone in body, but in spirit, they remain a ever-vigilant, ever-present, and forever bound the fort they once defended. Hutchinson Island, stretching along the Atlantic coast of Martin County, Florida, is often celebrated for its pristine beaches, turquoise waters, and natural beauty. Tourists come seeking sun, sand, and the soothing rhythm of the ocean. Yet beneath the Islanda's serene surface lies a history steeped in mystery and stories of the unexplained. For centuries, this stretch of coast has been witness to storms, shipwrecks, and countless untold tragedies, and locals say that the island remembers. For centuries, this stretch of coast has been witness to storms, shipwrecks, and countless untold tragedies, and locals say that the island remembers. Visitors report ghostly figures wandering the dunes. Strange and unexplained sounds piercing the night. Sudden fog rolling and carrying spectral lights that seem to float just above the sand. Hutchinson Island is more than a paradise. It is a place where the past lingers, where spirits of the lost walk among the living, and where the boundary between reality and the supernatural feels perilously thin. Many who explore Hutchinson Island after dark speak of ghostly figures moving along the dunes. These apparitions often appear as shadows at first, faint and indistinct, almost blended with the tall grasses swaying in the breeze. Observers describe them as human-shaped, sometimes resembling men or women in period clothing, walking slowly, pausing as if caught in thought, or glancing toward the sea. When approached, the figures vanish into the night or dissolve into the mist, leaving only footprints in the sand that disappear as the tide sweeps in. Some witnesses claim the figures appear restless, pacing the dunes as if searching for something lost in the waves. Strange sounds are another hallmark of Hutchinson Islanda's haunted reputation. Walkers along the shore after sunset often report hearing whispers carried on the wind, voices calling names, or faint laughter echoing across the sand. Others hear the clatter of footsteps along deserted pathways, the creak of doors or shutters where no building stands, or muffled cries that seem to emanate from the dunes themselves. These noises are often most pronounced on still nights, when the absence of other sound makes them all the more unsettling. In some cases, visitors describe hearing the distant toll of bells, the low hum of a song, or the clash of waves away that feels almost like a message from the past. Fog and spectral lights are perhaps the most visually striking manifestations reported on Hutchinson Island. Within this fog, strange lights have been observed, moving slowly across the landscape. The low hum of a song or the clash of waves away that feels almost like a message from the past. In some cases, visitors describe hearing the distant toll of bells, the low hum of a song, or the clash of waves away that feels almost like a message from the past. Some appear as lanterns swinging in the hands of unseen figures. Others are soft, diffuse glows hovering above the sand, shifting in intensity and color. These lights seem alive, moving with purpose, and witnesses often describe a chilling sensation as the glow passes nearby. Many believe the lights are the spirits of those lost to the sea, guiding the living or replaying moments from long ago when lives were claimed by the water. The area has long been a dangerous stretch of coastline, with reefs, shoals, and unpredictable storms making navigation treacherous. Shipwrecks were common, and survivors often struggled to reach the shore. It is said that some never truly left the island, their spirits remaining bound to the dunes and beaches where they first touched land. Over time, locals began to tell stories of ghostly sailors walking the sand, of figures glimpsed near abandoned structures, and of lights flickering mysteriously along the foggy coastline. These tales persist today, adding a layer of mystery to an otherwise tranquil destination. Even during the day, the island can feel charged with unseen energy. Hikers and beachgoers occasionally report catching glimpses of fleeting movement in the corner of their eyes. Shadows that vanish when looked at directly, or a sudden drop in temperature along a sunlit path. Photographs taken on the island sometimes reveal anomalies, faint shapes among the dunes, orbs of light hovering above the sand, or translucent figures that disappear in subsequent frames. Such evidence, subtle as it is, reinforces a belief that Hutchinson Island is more than it appears. A place where the veil between worlds is thin, and where the memories of those long gone continue to linger. The island's natural environment seems to amplify these phenomena. The dunes, with their wind-swept grasses and shifting sands, create an ever-changing landscape that makes the appearance of figures all the more eerie. The ocean, relentless in its ebb and flow, carries both the whispers of past events and the cries of those lost to its depths. Even the night sky, clear or clouded, seems to heighten awareness, making the presence of ghosts or spirits feel tangible to the attentive observer. Residents and longtime visitors often speak with reverence, warning newcomers that Hutchinson Island is beautiful but not entirely empty, and that respect is owed to the unseen inhabitants who share its spaces. Many who walk the beaches at night or explore the quieter trails leave a profound sense of having witnessed something beyond ordinary perception. Ghostly figures, whispers in the wind, and spectral lights create an experience both haunting and mesmerizing. Hutchinson Islanda's mysteries are subtle yet undeniable, blending natural beauty with a rich layer of paranormal presence. It is a place where the past walks alongside the living, where spirits linger on the dunes, and where the memory of those lost at sea continues to move with the wind, the fog, and the ever-changing tides. For visitors, Hutchinson Island is not merely a retreat from a modern world. The ghostly figures along the dunes, the strange sounds carried across the beaches, and the flickering lights within rolling fog all serve as reminders that this island holds stories that are not yet finished, and spirits that are not yet at rest, forever wandering among the sand, the trees, and the endless horizon of the Atlantic. Merritt Island, located in Brevard County along Florida's Space Coast, is widely celebrated for its proximity to NASA's Kennedy Space Center, its expansive wetlands, and its natural beauty. Visitors flock here for wildlife, scenic views, and the thrill of rocket launches. Yet beyond the modern marvels and the bustle of tourists, Merritt Island holds a quieter, darker history. Its secluded marshes, abandoned military structures, and dense forests are home to stories of unexplained phenomena, ghostly apparitions, and lingering spirits. Visitors often report seeing shadowy figures near old bunkers, hearing phantom footsteps in the wooded areas, and hearing whispers calling their names on the wind, evidence of a past that refuses to remain buried. Much of Merritt Islanda's haunted reputation centers on the abandoned military bunkers and facilities scattered across the island. Many of these structures date back to the mid-20th century, remnants of Cold War-era operations and defense installations that have since fallen into disrepair. Their empty hallways, rusted doors, and crumbling walls create an atmosphere ripe for paranormal activity. Many of these structures date back to the mid-20th century, remnants of Cold War-era operations and defense installations that have since fallen into disrepair. Their empty hallways, rusted doors, and crumbling walls create an atmosphere ripe for paranormal activity. Visitors often report seeing figures moving inside or around the bunkers. These apparitions are typically described as human-shaped but indistinct, flickering at the edge of vision like shadows caught in sunlight. Some witnesses claim to see soldiers or personnel from decades past, moving with purpose along corridors that are now silent and empty. Others describe figures standing silently at windows, gazing out over the marshes, as though keeping watch over the land they once defended. Phantom footsteps are a common occurrence throughout Meredith's land as forested areas and abandoned sites. Hikers and explorers often hear the unmistakable sound of boots crunching over fallen leaves, gravel, or metal stairs. Even when they are alone, these footsteps sometimes appear to follow visitors, maintaining distance but never stopping, only to vanish abruptly when confronted. In some cases, the rhythm of the steps suggests a march, a pattern that evokes military precision, adding to the sense that the island's past personnel remain tethered to their old routines. Whispers carried by the wind are another hallmark of Merritt Island's hauntings. On quiet days, visitors report hearing their own names spoken softly among the trees or across the marshlands. Sometimes the whispers are so faint they seem like imagination, but other times they are unmistakable, clear enough to make a hair on Oni's arm stand on end. Witnesses describe the sensation as being observed and acknowledged by an unseen presence, a subtle but chilling reminder that the island has absorbed the energy of countless past inhabitants and events. Some believe these whispers come from the spirits of soldiers, workers, or travelers who spent time on the island and whose stories remain unfinished. The thick vegetation, winding creeks, and isolated trails create a natural labyrinth where visibility is limited and sounds are amplified. Visitors report feeling sudden chills, as though someone has walked past them, even when the paths are deserted. In certain areas, the fog rises unpredictably, cloaking the land in a dense gray veil. Within this mist, shadowy shapes have been observed, moving along the water's edge or disappearing into the forest. Some claim to see figures wading through the marshes, blurred and ghostly, as if tied to the landscape that shaped their lives and, in many cases, their deaths. Photographs taken across Merritt Island often capture anomalies that reinforce its haunted reputation. Faint shapes appear in doorways, silhouettes hover near the treeline, or small orbs of light appear where no source exists. Some images show figures appearing to watch from the bunkers or moving along forest paths, frozen in a moment that may be decades old. These subtle visual cues, combined with first-hand experiences, create a compelling sense that Merritt Island is not merely a scenic destination, but a place where time overlaps, and the past is visible to those attentive enough to see it. Many of the island's hauntings are linked to its long and varied history. Before it became known for space exploration, Merritt Island was home to indigenous communities, European settlers, and military personnel. Over centuries, the land has witnessed labor, conflict, loss, and survival. These layers of human presence are said to leave an imprint on the environment, a resonance that can manifest as apparitions, unexplained sounds, or sudden chills. The combination of isolation, abandoned structures, and dense natural cover amplifies these effects, making the island a focal point for paranormal activity. Storms and changing weather often heighten the supernatural experiences. Heavy rain, gusting winds, or sudden fog can stir the marshes and forests in ways that bring ghostly phenomena to life. Figures may appear more vividly along abandoned pathways. Lights may flicker inside old bunkers, and whispers in the wind seem to carry messages of warning or remembrance. Some visitors believe that during these times, the spirits are more active, replaying fragments of the past or attempting to communicate with the living who venture into their domain. For those who explore Merritt Island, the experience is both captivating and unsettling. The island is a place where natural beauty, history, and the supernatural converge. Ghostly apparitions near abandoned bunkers, phantom footsteps through dense forests, and whispered names carried on the wind remind visitors that the Islanda's history is alive in ways beyond textbooks or tours. Merritt Island is not only the space coast. It is a landscape where the past lingers, where spirits roam, and where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. walking along the forested paths, peering into the empty bunkers, or standing silently at the edge of the marsh, one can sense the layers of time that inhabit Merritt Island. Walking along the forested paths, peering into the empty bunkers, or standing silently at the edge of the marsh, one can sense the layers of time that inhabit Merritt Island. Walking along the forested paths, peering into the empty bunkers, or standing silently at the edge of the marsh, one can sense the layers of time that inhabit Merritt Island. One can sense the layers of time that inhabit Merritt Island, where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. Where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. Where the past lingers, where spirits roam, and where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. Where the past lingers, where spirits roam, and where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. Merritt Island is not only the Space Coast. It is a landscape where the past lingers, where spirits roam, and where those who visit may feel the presence of lives long gone, quietly observing, waiting, and remembering. The ghosts of soldiers, settlers, and travelers continue their unseen patrols, their presence etched into the land, the wind, and the whispering trees. A place where the living and the departed coexist in the quiet spaces between history and the present, and where the echoes of the past remain ever watchful, ever haunting. Merritt Island is more than a destination. It is a keeper of memories, a place where the living and the departed coexist in the quiet spaces between history and the present, and where the echoes of the past remain ever watchful, ever haunting. Long Key, nestled in the heart of the Florida Keys, is a stretch of tropical paradise known for its calm waters, swaying palms, and vibrant sunsets. By day, the island offers serenity, soft sand, gentle waves lapping against the shore, and the distant call of seabirds. Yet beneath this idyllic surface, Long Key harbors a darker historia, one of shipwrecks, storms, and pirate lore that refuses to remain buried. Locals and visitors alike have reported ghostly phenomena, shadowy figures walking along the beaches, phantom ships appearing on the horizon at night, and sudden cold spots that send chills down the spine. These experiences suggest that Long Key is more than a vacation destination. It is a place where the past lingers and the spirits of sailors and pirates continue to roam. The Islanda-esque beaches are a frequent site of spectral sightings. Visitors often describe faint figures walking along the shoreline, appearing and disappearing like mist over the water. These shadowy shapes resemble sailors in old-fashioned uniforms or ragged attire consistent with pirates of centuries past. Some are seen carrying lanterns, their light flickering as they move with silent purpose. Others appear to pace the sands, gazing out toward the horizon as if awaiting the return of a lost ship. Approaching these figures usually causes them to vanish, leaving only footprints or the impression of disturbance in the sand. Some say the figures are restless souls, trapped between land and sea, forever searching for a harbor they never reached in life. Ghost ships are another hallmark of Long Key's haunted reputation. On quiet nights, when the moon casts silver reflections across the water, witnesses report seeing the silhouettes of old vessels gliding just offshore. These ships often appear to float silently, with sails billowing despite the absence of wind. Some accounts describe the dim glow of lanterns aboard the decks, moving as though crewed by invisible hands. Occasionally, the ships seem close enough to hear the faint creak of rigging or the splash of water against the hull, yet no vessel is physically present. Local legend attributes these ghostly ships to sailors lost in storms or pirates who vanished during raids, their spirits forever tied to the waters around Long Key. Unexplained cold spots and sudden drops in temperature accompany many of these sightings. Visitors walking along deserted beaches or exploring wooded trails often report feeling a sudden chill in the air, a stark contrast to the Islanda-esque typically warm climate. Sometimes, these cold spots are accompanied by a shiver running to the body, the sensation of being watched, or even the feeling of an invisible presence passing by. Divers and swimmers in the shallow waters have also reported chills or a strange heaviness underwater, as if the spirits of those claimed by the sea still linger beneath the surface. Whispers and faint sounds further amplify the Islanda's eerie reputation. Some walkers along the shore at night claim to hear voices carried by the wind, calls, laughter, or indistinct murmurs that seem to come from nowhere. These sounds are often intermittent, fleeting, and difficult to locate, yet they leave a lasting impression on those who hear them. In some cases, the voices appear to mimic the names of visitors, calling out softly through the rustle of palm fronds or along the edge of the surf. Locals believe these are the remnants of sailors' final moments, their voices echoing across time as they attempt to communicate or warn the living. The history of Long Key helps explain its haunted character. Its location made it a treacherous area for navigation, particularly before the advent of modern lighthouses and navigation tools. Storms, hidden reefs, and the unpredictable currents claimed countless ships, leaving survivors stranded or lost. Pirates also frequented the region, using the islands as hideouts or launching points for raids. Over centuries, the combination of maritime tragedy and lawless activity created a legacy of loss and unrest. And many believe that the souls of those lost in these waters remain tethered to the island. Even during daylight hours, visitors sometimes sense the lingering presence of the past. Hikers along the Islanda's trails or walkers along the quiet beaches report glimpses of movement from the corner of their isa. Photographs taken at night or in foggy conditions occasionally reveal unexplained silhouettes, faint lights, or misty forms not visible to the naked eye. These anomalies, subtle yet unmistakable, reinforce the sense that Long Key is a place where history remains alive, where the line between the living and the departed is thin. The natural environment of Long Key seems to enhance these phenomena. The dense mangroves, tidal flats, and narrow sandbars create areas where sounds carry strangely, and shadows play tricks on the eye. Mist rolling in from the water can obscure vision, making it easy for figures to appear or vanish suddenly. Even the wind seems to carry messages from the past, rustling leaves and palms in ways that mimic movement or voice. Together, these elements create a landscape where the supernatural feels plausible, and where visitors are keenly aware of the Islanda's haunted energy. For those who explore Long Key, the experience is unforgettable. The shadowy figures along the beaches, ghost ships on the horizon, and sudden chills in the night air serve as constant reminders that the island is not empty. Its history of sailors, storms, and pirates continues to echo through time, carried in the wind, the surf, and the shifting sands. Long Key is a place that contrasts serene by day, haunted by night where the living walk among the echoes of the past, and where the spirits of those claimed by the sea continue their eternal vigil along the shores of the Florida Keys. Long Key is more than a tropical retreat. It is a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge, a reminder that some souls never truly leave, and some stories are carried forever by the waters they once sailed. Indian Key, located near Isla Morada in the Florida Keys, was once a bustling settlement, a hub of commerce and community in the early 19th century. Traders, fishermen, and settlers lived and worked along its shores, building homes, docks, and warehouses that thrived for decades. Today, however, Indian Key is little more than ruins. Its buildings crumbled and overgrown, overtaken by the encroaching mangroves and the tides of history. Despite its decay, the island has not forgotten the people who once lived there. Visitors frequently report ghostly figures moving among the ruins, phantom voices carried by the wind, and sudden chills that seem to descend without warning, suggesting that the past remains very much alive on Indian Key. Walking through the remnants of the old settlement, visitors often feel a sense of unease, as if the island itself is watching. The ruins of stone foundations, collapsed walls, and scattered timbers create a fragmented landscape that seems frozen in time. Shadowy figures are often seen flitting among these remains, sometimes at the edge of vision, disappearing when looked at directly. Some witnesses describe seeing the outlines of men and women dressed in period clothing, moving with purpose along paths that once led to homes, shops, or the docks. Others report glimpses of figures standing silently near doorways or perched on fallen walls, watching over the island as if protecting the memories of its former inhabitants. Phantom voices are another frequent phenomenon on Indian Key. Visitors have reported hearing faint conversations, laughter, and calls carried across the ruins, often when no one else is nearby. At times, the voices are so distinct that they seem to come from specific locations, a collapsed wall, an empty building, or a path through the mangroves. Some hear their own names whispered softly, a sensation that is both unnerving and intimate. These auditory experiences often leave a lasting impression, as though the island is attempting to communicate the lives and stories of those who once walked its shores. Sudden chills and temperature drops are also common on Indian Key, even on warm, sunny days. Hikers and explorers often feel an unexpected cold brush past their skin, a weight in the air, or a brief sense of being followed. These sensations are fleeting but unmistakable, leaving visitors with the impression that unseen presences are moving alongside them. Some report feeling touches that vanish instantly, or a gentle pressure on their shoulders, reinforcing the sense that the spirits of the Islanda past still inhabit the ruins. The history of Indian Key contributes heavily to its haunted reputation. In the early 1800s, the island flourished as a settlement, but also faced danger from pirates, storms, and attacks by hostile forces. A violent raid in 1840 resulted in the deaths of many residents and the destruction of buildings, leaving survivors traumatized and the settlement forever altered. Local legend holds that the spirits of those who perished during the raid, as well as those who struggled to rebuild afterward, remain tied to the island. The energy of loss, fear, and resilience is said to manifest in the ghostly figures, mysterious sounds, and chilling sensations reported by visitors. Even the natural environment of Indian Key seems to enhance these experiences. Tidal waters lap against the shore in ways that amplify distant sounds, turning the whisper of wind into the impression of voices. The isolation of the island, combined with its crumbling structures and dense vegetation, gives the impression that the ruins themselves are alive, holding the memories of those who once inhabited them. Visitors often report that the longer they spend exploring the island, the stronger the sense of being observed or accompanied by unseen presences becomes. Photographs taken on Indian Key sometimes capture anomalies that reinforce its haunted reputation. Faint shapes appear among the ruins, often indistinct but clearly human in form. Small lights or orbs seem to hover near collapsed walls or along the water's edge. Shadows appear locations where no one is present, creating images that are difficult to explain by natural causes alone. These visual cues, combined with first-hand experiences of shadowy figures, phantom voices, and sudden chills, have led many to believe that Indian Key is a place where the past is never truly gone. Storms and shifting tides seem to awaken the island's spectral inhabitants. During high winds or heavy rain, visitors report seeing figures moving more actively among the ruins, hearing commands or cries on the wind, and noticing lights flickering in patterns that resemble lanterns once used by settlers. Visitors report seeing lights flickering in patterns that resemble lanterns once used by settlers. Even when the weather is calm, a sudden fog rolling in from the surrounding waters can obscure vision and create a sense of another world overlapping with the present. Within this veil, ghostly shapes, whispers, and subtle movements are reported with startling frequency. For those who explore Indian Key today, the experience is both haunting and captivating. The ruins serve as a tangible connection to the past, while the ghostly phenomena remind visitors that history is not only recorded in books, but also imprinted in the land itself. Shadowy figures among the crumbled structures, phantom voices echoing to the mangroves, and chilling sensations on the island all contribute to a sense of timelessness, as though the lives of those long gone continue to linger. Visitors leave with more than memories of scenic views. They carry the sense of having walked alongside those who came before, sharing a moment with the restless souls who continue to roam Indian Key, forever bound to the island that was once their home. Sand Key, located just off the coast of Clearwater, Florida, is home to one of the region's most iconic lighthouses, a towering structure that has guided sailors through treacherous waters for over a century. By day, the lighthouse stands as a beacon of history and maritime safety, its white tower gleaming against the blue sky, its light a reassuring signal to passing ships. By night, however, the lighthouse tells a different story of one of spirits, lost sailors, and lighthouse keepers who never truly left. Visitors have long reported phantom foghorns echoing over the water, ghostly footsteps along the spiral staircase, and shadowy figures appearing in the glow of the lantern. Sand Key is not merely a landmark. It is a place where the past lingers, where the spirits of the lost protect the light, while remaining bound to it, trapped in an eternal vigil. The lighthouse itself, built in the mid-1800s, sits on a narrow stretch of sand surrounded by water. Its location was chosen for the perilous reefs and shifting sandbars that claimed countless ships over the decades. Many sailors never made it safely past Sand Key, and their stories of struggle and loss are said to have left a mark on the island. Phantom foghorns are a frequent phenomenon reported by those visiting the lighthouse or exploring the surrounding waters. On calm evenings, when no boat or mechanical horn is nearby, visitors claim to hear the low, mournful sound of a horn echoing across the waves. Some describe the tone as sorrowful, almost like a call for help, while others report that the sound seems to guide them, as if the spirits are reenacting their duties from centuries past. Inside the lighthouse, the spiral staircase has been the scene of countless ghostly encounters. Visitors climbing the narrow steps report hearing the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind them, even when no one is present. Some say the steps feel weighted, as though something or something is pacing deliberately, following a careful routine. Shadowy figures sometimes appear at the top of the stairs, flickering in and out of view near the lantern room. Witnesses describe these apparitions as tall, indistinct shapes resembling former lighthouse keepers or sailors, watching over the tower with a quiet, solemn presence. The spirits are often described as protective rather than hostile, ensuring that the light continues to shine while remaining confined to the tower they once tended. The lantern room itself is a frequent site of spectral sightings. Visitors claim to see figures moving in the warm glow of the light, their forms sometimes holding objects that resemble lanterns or tools once used to maintain the lamp. On foggy nights, the apparition of a keeper is often reported pacing the perimeter of the room, seemingly checking the mechanism and watching over the waters beyond. Some describe the sensation of being accompanied by an unseen presence, a subtle pressure or chill that moves with them as they ascend the steps or peer through the windows. These experiences reinforce the legend that the spirits are bound to the lighthouse, tied to the duty of guiding sailors safely past Sand Key's dangerous reefs. Shipwreck victims are also said to haunt the lighthouse. Many of the area's most tragic maritime disasters occurred near Sand Key, where shifting sands and hidden reefs claim vessels despite the lighthouse's warning light. Visitors report seeing ghostly figures on the shore or near the water, watching silently as they approach. Others hear faint cries, splashing, or the sound of sails tearing in the wind, as if the spirits of sailors who perished long ago are forever replaying the moments of their demise. The combination of lost lives and devoted keepers creates a lair haunting, where the living brush against echoes of the past. Fog and storm seem to intensify these phenomena. Thick mist rolling in from the Gulf often cloaks the lighthouse in an ethereal glow. And during these times, ghostly figures are said to appear more vividly. Witnesses report that the sounds of phantom foghorns and footsteps are louder or more frequent, and the apparitions in the lantern room and along the stairways seem to move with purpose. Some believe that during storms, the spirits are especially vigilant, ensuring that no ship strays too close to the reefs or sandbars that claim so many lives. Photographs taken at Sand Key sometimes capture unexplained anomalies. Orbs of light appear in the stairwell or lantern room. Misty figures are visible near the base of the tower. Shadows move in patterns that do not correspond to the natural play of light. These images, coupled with first-hand experiences, have contributed to Sand Key's reputation as one of Florida's most haunted lighthouses. Many visitors leave with the sense that the spirits they encountered are not malevolent, but deeply connected to the lighthouse and its history, bound to the eternal glow that once guided them in life. For those who explore Sand Key Lighthouse today, the experience is a blend of awe, reverence, and unease. The glow of the lantern, the echo of phantom foghorns, and the presence of unseen figures remind visitors that the lighthouse is more than a navigational tula. It is a place where duty, tragedy, and memory converge. The spirits of keepers and shipwreck victims continue to inhabit the tower, their vigil unbroken, their presence a reminder of lives devoted to guiding others safely through dangerous waters. Sand Key is a place where the living and the departed coexist, where history is tangible, and where the ghosts of the past remain ever watchful. A beacon of memory, loss, and eternal protection. A haunting yet poignant reminder that some spirits never leave the places they were most bound to in life. Egmont Key, located at the mouth of Tampa Bay, Florida, is a small island steeped in both natural beauty and eerie history. Its sandy shores, salt marshes, and abundant wildlife draw visitors seeking solitude and exploration. But beneath the serene surface lies a darker side that few see. The island is home to the historic Egmont Key Lighthouse, a structure that has stood for over a century, guiding sailors safely through treacherous waters. Yet the lighthouse itself has earned a reputation for paranormal activity. Ghostly sightings, unexplained sounds, and strange lights have been reported for decades, leaving many to believe that the spirit of the past remained bound to the tower, some protective, others dangerously malevolent. Some protective, others dangerously malevolent. The lighthouse is the epicenter of most paranormal encounters on Egmont Key. Tower over the island, its white brick walls and spiral staircase have witnessed countless storms, shipwrecks, and lives lost at sea. Visitors often report seeing the spectral figure of a lighthouse keeper, pacing the spiral staircase or standing vigil near the lantern room. Visitors often report seeing the spectral figure of a lighthouse keeper, pacing the spiral staircase or standing vigil near the lantern room. The keeper appears solemn and deliberate, sometimes gesturing toward the water or the horizon, as if attempting to convey a warning. Those who have encountered him describe a sudden drop in temperature, a feeling of being observed, or a presence that follows them as they ascend the tower. Some believe this ghostly keeper continues his duty, guiding the living and preventing tragedy, a spirit bound to the lighthouse by devotion and unfinished purpose. Shadowy sailors are also frequently reported, their figures drifting along the interior halls, on the stairs, or even outside near the water's edge. These apparitions are often indistinct, moving slowly as if caught between worlds, yet they convey a sense of urgency or tension. Visitors have described seeing sailors peering out at the bay, their faces obscured, or walking toward the shoreline before vanishing into thin air. Some accounts claim these spirits are the remnants of shipwreck victims, those who never made a home and whose presence is forever tied to the waters surrounding Egmont Key. Others suggest that the figures are warnings, appearing to alert the living of dangerous currents, sudden storms, or hidden reefs that have claimed countless vessels over the years. Mysterious lights in and around the lighthouse add to its haunted reputation. At night, faint glows have been seen moving along the spiral staircase, flickering a lantern room, or hovering outside near the cliffs and shoreline. Some describe these lights as lanterns carried by invisible hands, others as soft, diffuse orbs that float through walls or vanish as quickly as they appear. Witnesses often report that the lights seem purposeful, moving in patterns or signaling toward the bay, almost as if communicating a message to those who are perceptive enough to notice. On foggy nights, these lights are said to become more active, appearing to trace paths across the water or dance along the sand, sometimes leading visitors to safe areas, other times dangerously close to the treacherous edge of the island. The dual nature of Egmont Key's hauntings is part of what makes it so compelling. Some spirits appear protective, warning visitors of impending storms or guiding them away from danger. Phantom footsteps, Fleeting shadows and faint lights often coincide with sudden weather changes or rough waters, suggesting that the island itself communicates through its spectral inhabitants. Others are believed to be malevolent, luring trespassers toward cliffs, quicksand-like marshes, or the water's edge. Accounts of cold spots, sudden gusts of wind, and the sensation of being pulled or watched are common, creating a sense of caution and reverence for the lighthouse and its surroundings. The history of Egmont Key adds context to these hauntings. The island has served as a military fort, quarantine station, navigational outpost, each era leaving behind stories of hardship, danger, and death. Shipwrecks were frequent in Tampa Bay's shallow waters, and sailors often perished despite the lighthouse's guidance. Soldiers, quarantine patients, and lighthouse keepers all contributed to human energy embedded in the Islanda's structures. Over time, these layers of history have given rise to legends and eyewitness accounts, reinforcing the belief that the spirits of those who lived and died on Egmont Key remain tethered to the island. Visitors who explore the lighthouse often leave with a mixture of awe and unease. The interior staircase creaks underfoot. Shadows seem to flicker at the corner of the eye. And the shadows seem to flicker at the corner of the eye. And the lantern's glow sometimes reveals fleeting figures that vanish when approached. The sounds of footsteps, whispers, and distant water echo through the walls, creating a sense that the lighthouse is alive with the energy of the past. Even during the day, the tower exudes a presence that is difficult to ignore, as if those who once tended are still watching, still guarding, and still interacting with the living in subtle ways. Photographs taken at Egmont Key often capture anomalies that cannot be easily explained. Ghostly shapes appear on the stairs, faint lights hover near the lantern room, and shadows move independently of the photographer. These images, combined with first-hand experiences, reinforce perception that the lighthouse is more than a navigational tool. It is a living repository of history and memory, a place where the spirits of the past continue to interact with the present. Egmont Key Lighthouse stands as a beacon in more ways than one. Beyond its practical purpose of guiding ships, it serves as a focal point for stories, legends, and encounters that remind visitors that some spirits remain tied to their duties long after death. Shadowy sailors, the spectral keeper, and mysterious lights all contribute to an atmosphere of reverence and caution, a reminder that the island's history is alive in both the physical and the supernatural. For those who visit, the lighthouse is not just a landmark, it is a place where the past persists, where the spirits of the lost remain vigilant, and where the line between the living and the dead is thinner than the beam of its eternal light. Rattlesnake Island, nestled in the waters of Florida's Panhandle, is a small, isolated landmass whose beauty belies a dark and unsettling history. Surrounded by calm waters by day, the island has long been shrouded in stories of curses, restless spirits, and inexplicable phenomena. Once inhabited, it is now abandoned, overgrown with dense foliage and gnarled trees that create a natural labyrinth. Visitors to Rattlesnake Island often report an eerie feeling of being watched, whispers carried by the wind, ghostly footsteps along overgrown paths, and hissing sounds that seem to emanate from nowhere. Local legend claims that the island was cursed centuries ago by native tribes angered at settlers who forcibly took the land, binding restless spirits to the terrain, leaving it forever haunted. The first thing visitors notice upon stepping onto the island is the unnatural quiet. Even on sunny days, the usual sounds of wildlife seem muted, as though the island itself is holding its breath. As they venture further inland, the whispers begin soft, almost imperceptible, like voices carried across water or through the thick canopy of trees. Some hear murmurs calling their names or snippets of conversation that fade as soon as they focus on them. These whispers are not constant but appear intermittently, often when one is alone, intensifying the sense that unseen eyes are tracking every movement. Ghostly footsteps are another common experience. Hikers and explorers walking the narrow trails report hearing the unmistakable sound of boots or bare feet crunching over leaves, moving along the paths behind them. The steps are sometimes heavy, sometimes light, but they always follow a rhythm, as though the spirits are replaying routines from life long past. Many have turned to find the source, only to see nothing Yet the sensation of being accompanied persists. Some describe sudden chills along the spine, goosebumps breaking out across the skin, or the eerie feeling of being brushed by an invisible presence. Hissing sounds are perhaps the most unnerving aspect of Rattlesnake Island hauntings. Visitors often report hearing long, low hisses weaving through the trees or rustling along the underbrush. Some describe the sound as serpentine and threatening, while others perceive it as a warning or lamentation. These noises appear without source, echoing in unnatural ways, sometimes close enough to startle, sometimes distant yet unnervingly distinct. Many speculate that the hissing represents the anger of the spirits bound to the island, a reminder of the ancient curse that has marked the land. Before settlers arrived, the land was inhabited by local tribes who relied on the area for hunting, fishing, and ritual. When settlers claimed the island, conflict ensued, and legend holds that the spirits of those who died or were wronged on the island would never find peace. Over time, the land became deserted, its inhabitants gone, and the natural world reclaimed what had been taken. Yet the energy of loss, anger, and unrest remained, manifesting in the ghostly encounters that continue to this day. The island's dense vegetation amplifies the supernatural phenomena. Twisted trees and overgrown paths obscure sightlines, creating natural shadows that can seem human at the corner of the eye. Mangroves and underbrush amplify sounds, carrying footsteps or whispers in ways that make it difficult to determine their origin. Fog and mist often roll in from the surrounding waters, wrapping the island in a pale, spectral veil that makes the boundary between reality and illusion almost imperceptible. Many visitors report that these conditions heighten the sense of presence, making apparitions, sounds, and sudden chills more pronounced. Abandoned structures, foundations, or remnants of past settlements contribute to the Islanda's haunted aura. Old docks, crumbling cabins, and stone hearths are frequent sites of reported sightings. Visitors describe shadowy figures appearing near these ruins, sometimes sitting silently, sometimes moving along the shoreline. Faint lantern-like lights have been observed flickering in the windows of crumbled cabins, or among the trees, casting eerie illumination on paths that were once trodden by settlers or indigenous people. These sights, subtle yet unmistakable, suggest that the spirits remain tied to the Islanda's physical remnants, replaying fragments of life long past. Photographs taken on Rattlesnake Island often capture anomalies that reinforce the sense of haunting. Misty shapes appear among trees, faint orbs hover near ruins, and shadowy figures sometimes seem to move independently of natural light and shadow. While many explanations are ofarita from trick of light to reflectiona, those familiar with the legends of the island often interpret these images as evidence that the spirits of the past are still present, bound by anger, sorrow, or unfinished business. Storms and sudden shifts in weather seem to awaken the Islanda's restless spirits. High winds carry the whispers louder, the hissing becomes sharper, and ghostly figures appear more frequently along paths or near ruins. Some visitors believe that during these times, the spirits are especially active, reliving moments of conflict, warning against trespassers, or replaying events that led to the Islanda's curse. The combination of isolation, history, and natural phenomena creates an atmosphere that is both captivating and unnerving. Rattlesnake Island is more than a deserted stretch of land. It is a repository of history, memory, and supernatural energy. The whispers in the wind, ghostly footsteps among overgrown paths, and hissing sounds echo the stories of those who lived, fought, and died here, where the spirits of the past remain, forever watching, forever bound to the land they once called home, where the natural and the supernatural intertwine. Cabbage Key, nestled in the tranquil waters of Pine Island Sound, Florida, is a small island steeped in history, mystery, and maritime legend. By day, the island offers sun-dappled shores, gentle waves, and a quiet charm that draws tourists and boaters alike. By night, however, Cabbage Key reveals a darker side, one shaped by centuries of pirate activity, shipwrecks, and the lingering energy of those who perished on its shores. Visitors have long reported ghostly sightings, shadowy figures on the docks, lights moving without a visible source, and the unsettling sound of laughter echoing across the water. Many locals believe that the spirits of pirates lost in battles continue to patrol the island, guarding hidden treasures and ensuring that the stories of their deeds are never forgotten. The docks of Cabbage Key are often the first place visitors encounter strange phenomena. Shadowy figures have been reported moving along the wooden planks, appearing and disappearing without warning. Some appear as indistinct silhouettes, while others take the form of sailors or pirates, complete with hats and period clothing. Many locals believe that the spirits of pirates lost in battles continue to patrol the island, guarding hidden treasures and ensuring that the stories of their deeds are never forgotten. Witnesses often describe the feeling of being watched, a sudden chill in the air, or the unmistakable sensation that someone unseen is pacing alongside them. These figures are sometimes seen at the water's edge, staring out toward the horizon, as though scanning the waters for approaching ships or guarding a secret. Many believe these apparitions are the restless spirits of pirates, eternally tied to the island by their deeds, their losses, or the treasures they once sought to protect. Eerie laughter is another common phenomenon on Cabbage Key. On quiet nights, when the wind carries sound across the calm waters, visitors report hearing sudden bursts of laughter. Some describe it as the laughter of men celebrating spoils, while others interpret it as sinister, echoing through the mangroves and the shoreline in a way that sends chills down the spine. The laughter often coincides with other paranormal events, such as shadowy movements or the flickering of unexplained lights, adding to the island's reputation as a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Lights moving without source are perhaps the most striking and mysterious aspect of Cabbage Key's hauntings. Visitors have observed flickering orbs drifting along the docks, swaying among the trees, or appearing to float over the water. Some lights are dim and ghostly, barely illuminating the surrounding area, while others glow with a warm, lantern-like hue, reminiscent of the lanterns pirates or sailors might have carried centuries ago. Witnesses often report that these lights move with intent, tracing paths that suggest movement and purpose. Some believe they indicate hidden treasures or the spirits continue patrol of the island, keeping watch over areas of significance from battles, raids, or shipwrecks. The legend of pirate activity on Cabbage Key is central to its haunted reputation. Historical accounts suggest that the island was a favored hideout for pirates navigating the waters of Pine Island Sound. Its secluded coves, dense vegetation, and hidden passages made it ideal for storing stolen goods or planning raids on passing vessels. Over time, the island became a place of tragedy as well, with battles, betrayals, and shipwrecks claiming lives. It is said that those who perish, whether in battle or while protecting treasure, left behind spiritual imprints that remain woven into the island itself. The combination of loss, secrecy, and lingering greed is believed to have created a potent energy that attracts and sustains ghostly activity to this day. The natural environment of Cabbage Key enhances its spectral phenomena. Dense mangroves, twisted trees, and winding trails obscure sight lines and create shadows that flicker with the movement of wind and water. The sound of waves against the shore carries, amplifying whispers or laughter. Fog rolling in from Pine Island Sound can create an ethereal, otherworldly atmosphere, perfect for sightings of shadowy figures or floating lights. The Islanda's isolation adds to its mystique. Visitors often report that the sensations of being followed, watched, or guided are strongest in areas far from the main docks or the few structures still standing. Visitors often report feeling a subtle presence guiding or warning them. Some claim that the spirits of pirates are protective rather than malicious, appearing to steer them away from hazards or towards certain areas of interest. Others believe that the spirits are more capricious, testing those who wander too far or those who show signs of greed, perhaps attempting to guard the secrets and treasures left behind. This dualistic protective yet potentially malevolent adds to the allure and danger of the Islanda's paranormal reputation. Photographs taken on Cabbage Key frequently capture anomalies. Ghostly shapes appear on the docks or near trees. Lights glow without source, and shadows move independently of natural causes. These images, combined with first-hand reports, reinforce the idea that the Islanda-esque spirits are not figments of imagination, but persistent remnants of lives intertwined with the Islanda-esque history. The apparitions, laughter, and lights all point to a living memory that refuses to be ignored. Cabbage Key is a place where history and the supernatural converge. The shadowy figures on the docks, the laughter echoing to mangroves, and the wandering lights over water all suggest that the island is far more than a scenic escape. For those who visit, there is a palpable sense that the pirates who once roamed these waters continue their watch, guarding the secrets of the past, and reminding the living that some treasuresa and some spiritsa never rest. The Islanda-esque beauty, charm, and history are inseparable from its hauntings, making Cabbage Key a place where the present brushes against the shadows of a restless, eternal past. Peanut Island, located off the coast of Palm Beach County, Florida, is a small but historically rich island with a reputation that extends far beyond its recreational appeal. By day, the island offers sandy beaches, walking trails, and views of yachts gliding across the intercoastal waterway. By night, however, Peanut Island tells a different story, a story of tragedy, loss, and lingering spirits. Visitors have long reported ghostly figures moving along the beaches, phantom footsteps echoing to the sand, and whispers carried on the wind that seem to come from nowhere. Local legend claims that these apparitions are the souls of workers and sailors who perished on the island during construction projects or during violent storms, forever bound to the land they helped shape. The island, artificially expanded and reinforced over decades, was the site of extensive construction, particularly in the mid-20th century, when efforts were made to stabilize its shores and build facilities. Many laborers worked in difficult conditions, exposed to tropical storms, rough waters, and the unpredictable currents of the intercoastal waterway. Exposure to tropical storms and rough waters, as well as the unpredictable currents of the intercoastal waterway, took a devastating toll on the workers. Tragically, accidents claimed the lives of several workers, and storms swept others into the surrounding waters. These deaths, violent and sudden, left a mark on the island, and many believe that the spirits of those who died remained tied to the island, unable to leave the place where their lives ended. Visitors often describe encountering ghostly figures along the beaches, some sea workers in period clothing walking the shoreline or performing tasks that were part of their labor, as if trapped in a continuous loop of their daily duties. Others report seeing sailors or fishermen moving along the water's edge, their forms appearing and disappearing with the light of the setting sun. These apparitions are often fleeting, visible only from the corner of the eye, but the impression they leave is unmistakable. Witnesses frequently describe a sensation of being watched or followed, a subtle but persistent feeling that the living are sharing the space with those who have passed. Phantom footsteps are another common phenomenon on Peanut Island. Walkers along the sandy trails or near the shoreline often hear the sound of someone pacing behind them, stepping over sand and pebbles, yet when they turn around, no one is there. The footsteps vary in intensity. Sometimes they are light and distant, as if someone is quietly observing, while other times they are heavy and deliberate, echoing across the island like a presence moving with purpose. Many visitors describe a shiver running down their spine, or a sudden chill in the air when the footsteps are most pronounced, further reinforcing the idea of a spectral presence. Whispers carried on the wind are another hallmark of the island's haunting. At times, visitors hear faint voices, indistinct yet unmistakably human, murmuring along the shoreline or through the trees. These whispers can sound like snippets of conversation, names being called, or soft warnings. Some interpret the voices as the spirit's way of communicating or reenacting moments from their lives before death. Others see them as an expression of unrest, the echoes of souls caught between the living world and the waters that claimed them. The whispers often appear most clearly during dusk or under the cover fog, when the Islanda-esque natural silence makes every sound feel amplified. Storms and high winds seem to intensify these experiences. During heavy rains or tropical squalls, visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures moving more actively, hearing footsteps in rhythm with the wind, and whispers carried across the dunes. The combination of storm sounds to howling winds, crashing waves, and shifting sonda creates an environment in which the supernatural seems to assert itself, reminding the living of the dangers that claimed so many lives in the past. Even when the weather is calm, a sense of lingering energy persists, as though the spirits remain vigilant, forever tethered to the island. Photographs taken on Peanut Island sometimes reveal anomalies consistent with reported hauntings. Misty shapes can be seen along the shoreline. Faint lights hover near trees or structures, and shadowy forms appear in areas where no one was standing. While skeptics might attribute these images to lighting or photographic artifacts, those familiar with the Islanda's history often see them as evidence of the restless spirits who continue to inhabit the space. These images, along with first-hand experiences, have cemented Peanut Islanda's reputation as a haunted site, drawing curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The stories of Peanut Island are as layered as its sand and soil. Ghostly workers, sailors lost of water, phantom footsteps, and whispers all combine to create an environment thick with memory and presence. Visitors often describe a mixture of fascination and unease, a sense of walking through a space where the line between the living and the dead is thin. The island's beauty, with its tranquil waters and sandy beaches, stands in contrast to its dark history, making a place of both refuge and haunting. The island is more than a recreational destination. It is a place where tragedy and memory remain embedded in the landscape. The spirits of those who perished during construction or in storms continue to roam the beaches, the trails, and the edges of the water. Ghostly figures and inexplicable sounds serve as reminders that some lives, some deaths, and some energies cannot easily be laid to rest. Visitors leave with a sense that the island is alive with history, presence, and mystery, a place where the living brush against echoes of the past, and where the souls of the lost remain forever caught between land and sea. Shell Key Preserve, a secluded barrier island in Tampa Bay, Florida, is known for its pristine beaches, winding sandbars, and abundant wildlife. By day, it is a haven for kayakers, birdwatchers, and beachcombers, offering quiet vistas of the bay and the Gulf beyond. By night, however, it takes on an entirely different character, one steeped in mystery and paranormal activity. Visitors have long reported ghostly figures walking along the sandbars, whispers carried on the wind, and sudden, unexplained chills that seem to come from nowhere. Local legend claims that these spectral presences are the spirits of sailors shipwrecked along the bay's treacherous waters, now roaming the shores to warn the living of hidden dangers. Accessible only by boat or kayak, the island is largely untouched by development, leaving visitors surrounded by nature and the sense that they have stepped into a world apart. This seclusion enhances a feeling of being observed, especially after sunset. Many recount walking the sandbars and noticing shadowy figures at the edges of their visiona, silhouettes that appear human but vanish when directly looked at. Some have seen tall, indistinct shapes pacing along the water's edge, their movements deliberate, as though retracing steps they once took in life. These ghostly figures are often described as sailors or shipwreck victims, their presence tied to the turbulent history of the bay and its hidden shoals. Ghostly figures are not the only reported phenomenon. Sudden chills are common, often descending without warning, and leaving visitors shivering even on warm Florida evenings. These cold spots are most frequently encountered near the sandbars, along the shoreline, or beneath the dense mangroves that frame the island. Witnesses describe feeling as though something or something is passing close by, a presence brushing past them, though no living being is nearby. The intensity of these chills can vary, from a subtle shiver to a bone-deep cold that seems impossible given the surrounding heat. Many interpret this as the lingering energy of those who perished, a physical echo of lives lost to the unforgiving waters. Whispers in the wind are another hallmark of Shell Key Preserve's hauntings. Visitors report hearing voices calling out names, faint commands, or fragmented conversations drifting across the sandbars. At times, the whispers seem to carry messages of warnings to turn back, to avoid certain areas, or to be careful near hidden channels and reefs. Other times, the voices appear aimless, murmuring in patterns that are difficult to interpret but unmistakably human. These auditory experiences often coincide with other phenomena, such as ghostly sightings or sudden chills, creating an immersive and unsettling atmosphere that leaves visitors aware of the Islanda's spectral inhabitants. The history of shipwrecks and maritime peril in Tampa Bay provides context for these hauntings. The bay's shallow waters, shifting sandbars, and hidden reefs claim countless vessels over centuries, from trading ships to fishing boats. Storms and sudden squalls were frequent, often catching sailors unprepared. Many who drowned never reached shore, and some were swept toward Shell Key, their lives ending tragically along its sands. According to legend, the spirits of these sailors did not find rest, remaining tethered to the island to protect others from similar fates. The combination of loss, tragedy, and the natural dangers of the bay is said to have created an enduring presence that manifests in the forms reported by visitors. The sandbars stretch far into the water, shifting with tides and currents, creating an ever-changing landscape. Mangroves, dunes, and tidal pools obscure sightlines, casting shadows that appear to move with a life of their own. Fog and mist rolling in from the Gulf can further obscure vision, creating the impression that figures are emerging from nowhere or gliding over the water. Many visitors note that the longer they remain on the island, the stronger the sense of presence becomes, as if the spirits are aware of intruders in their domain. Photographs taken on Shell Key often reveal anomalies that reinforce its haunted reputation. Faint figures appear on the sandbars, glowing orbs hover above tidal pools, and shadows seem to move independently of light sources. While some images can be attributed to natural phenomena or camera artifacts, the consistency of reports and images from multiple visitors has contributed to the legend of the island. These visual cues, combined with first-hand experiences, make Shell Key preserve a place where the natural and supernatural intersect. Storms and high winds appear to awaken the spirits most intensely. Visitors during or after squalls often report seeing ghostly figures moving more actively, hearing whispers and voices more clearly, and feeling sudden, sharp chills along the shoreline. Some believe that during these times, the spirits actively patrol the sandbars and beaches, guiding the living away from hidden dangers or unseen channels in the bay. Others suggest that the energy is less benign, a reminder that the waters claim many lives, and that the island itself is a place where respect and caution are required. Shell Key Preserve is more than a natural haven. It is a repository of memory, history, and the supernatural. The ghostly figures on the sandbars, the whispers in the wind, and the sudden chills that move through visitors all serve as reminders that the island is a place where the past refuses to remain silent. For those who explore its beaches and tidal channels, Shell Key offers both beauty and unease, a space where shipwrecked sailors continue to roam, warning the living, guiding the cautious, and keeping the secrets of the bay alive. It is a place where the present brushes against echoes of the past, and where the spirits of the lost remain forever bound to the sands, water, and whispering wind of Shell Key Preserve. Boca Grande Key, situated in the heart of Gasparilla Sound, Florida, is a small island that combines natural beauty with a reputation for lingering spirits and unexplained phenomena. By day, its sandy beaches, swaying palm trees, and calm waters attract boaters, anglers, and wildlife enthusiasts. Yet, after the sun sets, the island takes on a more sinister aspect. Visitors report shadowy figures moving among the palms, mysterious lights flickering along the shoreline, and phantom footsteps echoing across the sand. Local legend suggests that these spectral presences are the restless spirits of pirates, settlers, and sailors who perished offshore, forever bound to Boca Grande Key and its waters. The shadowy figures on Boca Grande Key are among the most frequently reported sightings. Tourists and locals alike have described indistinct shapes moving quietly through the palm groves or appearing along the beach at dusk. Some figures appear humanoid, often tall, and wearing clothing reminiscent of sailors or early settlers, while others are darker, more amorphous, and difficult to define. Witnesses often experience an immediate sense of unease when these figures are present, a feeling of being watched or followed, even when the island appears deserted. Many believe that these apparitions are tied to historical events, the lives lost in shipwrecks, pirate skirmishes, or early settlement conflicts. and that the spirits are replaying fragments of their final moments, unable to find peace. Mysterious lights are another common phenomenon on Boca Grande Key. Visitors report seeing faint glows along the shoreline, often appearing and disappearing with no discernible source. Some lights resemble lanterns carried by unseen hands, while others are soft orbs that hover above the sand or glide along the water's edge. The movement of these lights is often deliberate, sometimes tracing paths that appear intentional, as if guiding or warning those on the island. Many interpret the lights as connected to the spirits of sailors and pirates, either leading travelers away from hidden dangers or marking the areas where tragedies once occurred. In some accounts, the lights intensify during foggy or stormy nights, creating an eerie, otherworldly landscape that seems frozen between the past and present. Phantom footsteps are another hallmark of Boca Grande Key's hauntings. Visitors walking along the beach or through the interior trails report hearing the distinct sound of someone pacing behind them, sand shifting under unseen feet. The footsteps can be soft and tentative or heavy and deliberate, often echoing over distances that seem impossible given the island's size. Those who turn to confront the source find nothing. Yet the sensation of an invisible presence remains. These auditory experiences often coincide with other strange occurrences, such as sudden chills, shifting shadows, or glimpses of the shadowy figures, creating a comprehensive feeling that the island is alive with unseen watchers. The history of Boca Grande Key contributes to the depth of its hauntings. The island's waters have long been treacherous, claiming countless ships over the centuries. Storms, shifting sandbars, and hidden reefs made navigation difficult, and many sailors perished close to shore. In addition, pirates are said to have used the island as a hiding place, engaging in skirmishes with rival crews or authorities, and leaving a trail of violence and loss. Each layer of tragedy has contributed to the lingering presence felt on the island, creating a space where history and the supernatural intersect. The natural environment of Boca Grande Key enhances its spectral reputation. Dense palm groves, mangroves, and shifting dunes create shadows that play tricks on the eye, often making ordinary movement appear mysterious. The sounds of waves lapping the shore, combined with the whisper wind through the palms, can carry echoes of footsteps or whispers in ways that make them feel real. Fog, especially in the early morning or after storms, adds to the eerie atmosphere, transforming the familiar landscape into something otherworldly, as though the spirits themselves have altered the environment to reflect their presence. Visitors often report a sense of guidance or warning from the spirits. Some believe that the apparitions of sailors or settlers act as protectors, guiding the living away from treacherous waters, hidden sandbars, or dangerous paths through the islanda's interior. Others perceive the spirits as restless or mischievous, testing intruders who venture too far or who come with intentions of greed or exploitation. This dual natura protective yet potentially malevolent adds to the islanda's allure and keeps visitors wary, respecting the unseen history embedded in the sand and palm groves. Photographs taken on Boca Grande Key sometimes reveal anomalies consistent with these reports. Shadowy forms appear among the trees, lights hover over the sand, and faint silhouettes emerge on the beach, visible even when no one is present. While some images can be explained by reflections or lighting, the consistency of sightings over decades has solidified the island's reputation as haunted. These visual anomalies, combined with first-hand accounts, create an undeniable sense that the spirits of the past continue to inhabit the island, remaining tied to its history and geography. Boca Grande Key is more than a tropical escape. It is a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge. Shadowy figures among the palm trees, mysterious lights along the beach, and phantom footsteps echoing at night serve as constant reminders that the island is alive with memory. The spirits of pirates, settlers, and lost sailors continue to roam, guiding, warning, and haunting, ensuring that Boca Grande Key remains a place where the present is inseparable from the echoes of the past. Visitors leave with a lingering awareness that some souls never truly leave, and that the island itself is a keeper of their stories, eternally watching over the sands and waters of Gasparilla Sound. And there you have it, brave voyagers, 25 haunted islands in Florida surrounded by restless spirits, where shadows drift along the beaches, footsteps echo in abandoned ruins, and the dead linger long after the living leave. That flicker of movement, that sudden chill, or that whisper carried on the window. It may not be your imagination. It may be a spirit, forever bound to the island, watching, waiting, and hoping you will remember. Next time you walk along a quiet shoreline, listen carefully. That flicker of movement, that sudden chill, or that whisper carried on the window. It may not be your imagination. It may be a spirit, forever bound to the island, watching, waiting, and hoping you will remember. Next time you walk along a quiet shoreline, listen carefully. Thank you for sailing these haunted shores with me. If you felt the chill, if you sensed the